boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff Booner. Lucas, we are live. It is Thursday, January 9th. And boy, we got a good show planned for today. We got Chris Castellani joining, talking some Tigers, Lions as well. We have updates regarding AG, Ben Johnson, Ennis, Rakestraw update. It's going to be a good show. We're also giving our top 10 teams out for the playoffs that are under the most pressure. We'll look back at our last, before the season, our playoff bracket, what that looks like. But tell us, how we doing tonight? How we feeling?
Feel good. Hey, I hope it's – I didn't send 10 teams, so I hope it's not top 10, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff has his top 10. Booner, me and you have our top 5.
Okay, I was a little worried. I was like, I only sent 5 teams today, my top 5. So I was a little like, uh-oh, here we go. Now, I'm feeling good, though, today.
Jeff wants to have a longer narrative.
Yeah, I was confused. I was like, when we were talking about it, it's like there's 10 teams. I mean, there's 12 teams in the playoffs. No, they're all not under pressure. I was like, there's too many there. I eliminated so many teams so quick. I feel good, though. There's football going on right now. This is like one of the best 4-day stretches. There's not like a lot of games, but there's a lot, like there's good games. Like they're quality matchups. I did take Notre Dame money line tonight, so I have that and Riley Leonard touchdown on its own too. And who's the running back for Penn State?
Singleton or Allen?
Yes, Singleton. I have Singleton anytime touchdown as well. So I've got those 3 bets going. Pumped up though. A lot of things happening in the Lions world today. It's weird. It's like off week, bye week. Just keep hitting news. Just keeps hitting our circle here. It's kind of crazy.
It's not all good news. I'm interested to see, boys, if you think. Because Drew Aller can declare if Penn State wins tonight and somehow they win the national championship, do you think Drew Aller should declare?
No.
I
don't know. I haven't really thought about Drew Aller. Jeff probably has.
Because it's such a weak quarterback class. Like Drew Aller would be a first-round pick if they have
I don't
success.
think he would.
Yeah, it's tough now with NIL. I mean,
he would not be first round.
Now quarterbacks, it's like you don't technically have to come out right away. You can go back, make a $1-2 million, play another year, double dip, and go to the NFL, then get your contract. So it's like typically like years ago, I would say in 2024, 2025, maybe go back, get your bag, and then declare next year. I mean, I don't know. It's
zero chance. Drew Aller's a first-round quarterback in this year's draft class.
He's an intent. Like, what do we talk about?
Okay, he'll go like 3rd, 4th round. He's not a first-round guy. Klotz, you had to think of like last year, Klotz. You were the one that was arguing with us saying about the 4 or 5 quarterbacks, and you're like, that never happens. And last year was the first year. It's typically 3 quarterbacks or so in the first round, and I think that's like Shador. Jalen Milroe will go before Drew Aller and Cam Ward. Like those, and they're not good. But like if anything, like Jalen or Milroe drops, like he would drop out of the first 2. And I don't even know if he's a solidified first rounder.
I'm 1,000% drafting Drew Aller over Jalen Milroe.
I'm not drafting either one if I'm an NFL GM.
But there's like if you're a team like the Raiders, and like you're sitting there at 10. And you just missed out on Michael Penix.
You're not being like my franchise guy is Drew Aller. That's the last thing you're doing.
There's teams that are like,
he's not bad.
No,
he's not a first round. He's not a franchise NFL guy. He's the farthest from that.
I disagree. I don't think he's like Joe Burrow coming out, but yeah, he's better than Jalen Milroe for sure.
Yes, but he is not a first or second round pick. Not at all. He's not that good.
It's hard to tell, but I'm saying like if he were to declare after winning a national championship with Penn State, he would be in the first round.
Do you think he's better than Desmond Ridder coming out?
No. Desmond Ridder was better at Cincy. He was, dude. I would rather take Desmond Ridder than Drew Aller. Drew Aller hasn't done much. Like he's in an offense that has 2 really good running backs, and like he does make plays when he does, and he has an elite tight end, and that's the only guy he throws the ball to. Like he's not like yes, he was great coming out of high school. He was very highly rated. That's cool. You can't hang your head on that forever. What about what's his name from Georgia? Stetson Bennett. Just because he won national championships doesn't mean he should have been a first. No.
Stetson Bennett's 5'9".
I would take Stetson Bennett over Drew Aller, dude. Like Stetson Bennett was winning. Drew Aller can't even win in a big
Oh
game.
my God, Booner.
I'm over. I just hate the Drew Aller hype, dude. It's the worst.
Stenson Bennett over Drew Aller.
It's the worst, dude. I hate the Drew
That's
Aller
got to
hype.
be one of the worst things to ever come out of your mouth.
This is a personal vendetta versus Drew Aller.
We got that out the way.
I do not want to ever hear Drew Aller first round ever in my life. Like I would be willing to put no, we won't. He will not be close to a first round pick.
Yeah, Booner, that's ridiculous. You know GMs are going to look at a guy who's 6'5", 21 years old, 6'5", got an arm. Like, but JJ, like, hype up JJ. You know, like, JJ's great. But, like, come on, you've seen crazier things happen.
I'm so out on Drew Aller, dude. I hate people who can't win games. He can't win games.
Dude's in the college football playoff, Boone.
Okay, cool. But how long has he been at Penn State for? Every time he's played in a big game, he's lost. At least Stenson Bennett can win. I want a winner in my program. I want winners.
Oh, Stenson. Oh, we know Stenson Bennett for sure. Yeah, he's a winner. That guy just wins everywhere he goes.
Yeah, he's in a winning situation off the field after he got drafted too.
Yeah,
I don't care about off the field. The man's a winner.
I swear. But yeah. Oh, jeez. That like shook me to my goodness. Stenson Bennett. Now it's a way to open up the show. I like that.
I would love to see the reaction. Imagine Drew Aller just goes out there tonight and balls. He puts up like.
When was the last time Drew Aller had a good football game?
Did you
probably in the regular season for sure? But my whole thing with Drew Aller.
I know it was Boise State, but he had throws in that game where I'm like,
he had 170 yards, man. I'm not 13 for 25.
Did you watch him?
Yes, I watched the game.
And
he has some throws, but I'm so far out on him. Someone else could take him, dude. Go ahead. I would love for him to get drafted in the NFC North. Let the Vikings take him and take over for JJ. We'll beat him 2 times a year.
All right, well, it's personal, clearly, and that's what I.
Sorry, I didn't know I hated Drew Aller this much. That's
I didn't. I really didn't. I didn't.
It's not me.
But you kind of alluded to it. A lot of stuff going on in the Lions world. Kirby Joseph, I just saw to put out ML football, and this is kind of a known thing, but he's eligible, by the way, for an extension, and it's not just an extension; it's a pretty hefty extension. Given he's probably going to make the All-Pro team, that's going to happen. And he'll be eligible to sign a 4-year, $70 million contract. So Kirby Joseph, he's do the bag. 4 for 70. And
what is that a year? What does that come out to?
Well, what is that?
Trying to think. It'd probably be like
it's 17 and a half, roughly.
Yeah. Say right under 20 probably.
I don't know what the base, all that stuff with like signing bonus versus like, I don't know what it would actually come to like per year.
Yeah.
What he would make.
It'd be a little different.
But he will get paid. And that's a thing that I think we don't really think about too much because we're living in the moment as we should be. But it's just you're going to lose some guys. It's going to happen. Okay, you're not going to be able to afford everyone. Okay, so that Brad Holmes is probably the guy you want in this position to like restructure contracts, figure out a way to squeeze guys into with certain deals, push money back. Front certain money, like he'll figure out a way to keep like a good amount of these guys. But Kirby, in my eyes, is someone it's just a no question. He's coming back, and he's gonna get that money. Like
I think Kirby, and obviously I saw too Hutch the other day. He's due for an extension, and I think he's eligible. I think it was starting like 3 or 4 days ago. Obviously, I feel like Brad, like these guys wait till the offseason. Brad's been a guy that, and if you, I don't know if you guys, I mean, I guess we all have noticed it like last year. Brad, like early in the offseason, tries to get it done. Like not instantly, but he tries to get it done before the summer to beat everyone else out. Like if there's other safeties that are due for a contract extension, for Hutch, if there's other edges that are due, it's like, hey, let's try and get the best deal we can. I saw Hutch's is like 174 years, like 170. I think came out to like 35 a year. That's his like max he's eligible for. I mean, I don't hate either. I mean, you're doing both, right? Like maybe you can move out around the numbers and make it different years. So, Hutch is bigger on a different year than someone else is, and someone else has more on a year. So it kind of evens out, and it's not as like, you're not putting everything on 1 year. But I think, in my opinion though, boys, like if you look at the cap space now, I think they went into this year with over 20 million. And then I think going into this offseason, there's like over 70 million. And I know there's guys you need to re-sign, but one thing Brad's done very well is he has set himself up knowing I'm going to have to pay some of my draft picks because they have been so good. And he has financially set himself up for that. Like, that's why when they're like, hey, trade for a star edge that costs 25, 30 million a year, he probably is hesitant to do it because you have these types of players on your team. Like Brian Branch in a couple of years needs to be paid. Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, like that draft class, Jack Campbell, that's going to be a money bag summer. And you might have to leave a guy or you might have to pay all of them. But like Brad's been pretty smart with money. Both of these guys are going to get extensions. Kirby deserves it too. Hutch deserves it. Kirby deserves it. Like, these guys deserve an extension. They better not let any of these guys walk. That would be, well, not Hutch, but like if you're going safeties, like Kirby better be Detroit line for a long time.
Yeah. And he will be. Kirby, like you said, he deserves that money. Over the last 3 years, Kirby Joseph has more interceptions than anyone in the NFL. Second is Jesse Bates with 14, and Jesse Bates is an all-pro caliber safety. Kirby Joseph has 3 more interceptions in 2 more games. So they basically play the same amount of snaps. Obviously, Jesse Bates probably right now is a better all-around safety as far as getting to the run, but Kirby Joseph every year has gotten better and gotten better and gotten better. And I think what makes Kirby so good is you look at the aggressiveness of this defense, and Kirby's kind of the one guy who's more finesse, and he kind of like equals out the secondary because you look at Brian Branch. He's balls to the walls. He's flying all over the field. Amik Robinson, Terran Arnold. I think you can put Carlton Davis kind of in that finesse too, but I think it's a perfect balance when you talk about Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. They're very different players, but when you watch them in the game together, they're in sync and they're good at, and they accelerate at different areas of the avenue. Like, you can send Brian Branch at the quarterback, keep him in the box, and you can trust that because, on the back end, Kirby Joseph is going to have everything covered if it's just a cover one zone. Like, quarterbacks do not want to throw at Kirby Joseph. Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. First ballot Hall of Famer, had to find out the hard way. And you saw at the beginning of the season that it wasn't a fluke. First year, 4 interceptions. Last year, 4 interceptions. This year leads the NFL. So this guy, it's going to be hard for him to get this amount of turnovers next year, especially coming off of the season. They're going to be more aware of like, hey, don't throw Kirby's way, but he's still going to get his hands on the ball. I think this could be between him and Branch, maybe not as good because both of the guys, again, should be Hall of Famers, but this will be like the new age Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas was a ball hawk free safety who led the NFL interception, and Cam Chancellor was just an all-around monster at the strong safety position. So I think the Lions, to have those guys drafted in the 2nd and 3rd round, it's remarkable what Brad Holmes has done, and Kirby Joseph has lived up to everything, and he deserves that money.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby Joseph definitely deserves the money. And, you're going to look at this summer. You have Iffy, which I'm curious. He'll probably be let go unless they bring him back on maybe it's an affordable deal.
I think Iffy comes back.
Yeah, maybe they bring him back
on a cheap deal.
Yeah, you never know. But then this is year 2 for that draft class with that you were mentioning, Boone. So
yeah,
not the first round picks because they have the 5th year option. And then Jamison Williams will eventually come down the pipeline. Speaking of the 5th year option, because he's due in about a year. You probably give him an extension. I mean,
JMO can get an extension, I think, this year.
He could.
He's the same as Curry. I just don't think they'll give it to him. I think they'll wait till next year.
Wait. See, but Brian Branch, he has 2 years left, and then Sam Laporta has 2 years left because they're not first rounders. So those guys are going to need to be paid too. So it's Brad's got some tasks. I would hate to be him to make these types of decisions. He'll figure out a way to finagle it all, but
great word, finagle.
You know who's done it? John Lynch has done it in San Francisco, and he's about to pay his quarterback, he said. So we've seen people in the league do it. It's just about how good are you at bringing these role dudes in, like those guys. That's what it comes down to. Because you can keep all these guys you want, but then it's again, it's like the trade deadline. All those people who wanted the Max Crosby trades, which we talked about and we wanted at times, those are deals where it's hey, those are big contract guys that take away. John Lynch, the thing he does, they trade for guys on 1-year deals and things like that are cheap. But you see now, they're about to pay Brock Purdy. I'm interested to see the numbers on that, but he came out yesterday and said he's our guy. And Debo, they're going to pay him again. It's possible to pay all these guys. When you draft well, you have to do it, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and
thank God they already got Goff re-signed, so you can just get that out of the way.
Yeah,
I love Panay, Goff, Amon-Ra. Those are some big ones to get done.
And the situation Brad has, which even the 49ers don't have, is the 2 safeties. The 49ers don't. They have Tufonga, but isn't Tufonga? He's still on a rookie deal, I think. Tufonga.
Yeah, they just got they got another
new rookie,
Jair Brown.
No,
yeah.
Mustafa out of Wake
yeah.
Forest. That dude's a fucking dog.
Number
But
6.
they draft well, so you find a way to replace guys, but at least they're not paying really their safeties. The Lions you're probably going to put $30 million into both these safeties, like probably 30-ish million.
I mean, more almost. You're almost going to put 40 mil because what was the average to Kirby? 17, you said?
Yeah, and then Winfield just got paid like 20.
Yeah, dude, I'm looking right now. The Antoine Winfield, 21, almost 21 and a half. Derwin James, 19. Minka Fitzpatrick. 18 and a half. Buda Baker 18. Like those are guys like Brian Branch is going to get paid that same money. So it's like you're almost looking at 40 million between your two safeties. And then it's like people I hate it too. I don't know where you guys are at with this. I hate it when people say take a discount. Like don't ask someone to take a discount.
Yeah,
I hate that. That's like the situation with Derek Carr. People like complaining in New Orleans, like take a pay cut for us. Like, buddy, like they're like, you already made 200. Like, let's not pocket watch and let's just like the man earned his money, and it's like these guys earned to get their first especially these guys' first contracts in the league.
Yeah,
like they deserve it. So it's you got to find a way to draft. You have to find a way to sign free agents, like a guy like this year, like an Amik. You have to find guys like that consistently now going forward, especially after next year. After next season, that's when you have to pay some of those guys in that Jameer, Jack Campbell, like those they're not up, but they're eligible for extensions. And those players, as soon as they become eligible, they're like, and you want to pay them quicker because if you wait, then it costs more money. So the balance book's going to start looking pretty interesting in a year or so.
And just like the NFL structured like that, eventually that bill will be due. You know, I think Neil Rule used to say that bill comes due, you know, at some point. Like the 49ers, that bill, you see it this year, it's due. You know, they're like, oh, crap, you know. But the Lions, at least with young players, have a big window. It's big. Yeah. You know, they have guys these guys are so good on the rookie deals. Like Brian Branch was so good as a rookie. It's like you get that dude for 4 years at that level of play before you even have to pay him. So at least with Brad, how well he is at drafting, it does help. Yeah, it leaves your window open longer. It does.
Brad probably has an idea even now about who he's going to re-sign for sure, who he might re-sign, and who's not going to make the cut. And I guarantee, especially like the picks that I'm getting upset with, like Manu, Broderick Martin, those are probably where those come into play, and we're getting frustrated. But like the last year on their deals is going to be somebody else final year on their contract. So it'll be interesting how it all shakes out. But I trust in those years, Brad Holmes is going to be drafting studs in the second, third, and fourth round, just like he has already. So
consistently,
Brad will keep this window open for
best
sure.
part about it too. Like this year, you have a first, second, and third, I think, and even I think you almost have not all. I don't know if you got rid of any picks in 2020.
I don't think they have a third this year.
Okay, so first, second, fourth, like you have your first and second for sure. Like that's huge. That's big. You still have your first and second round pick. And then we've seen what Brad Holmes does in the first and second round. So like that's very, very, and I mean, you can even trade up at that point you know.
Well, it's one of those picks from last year's coming back. Ennis Rakestraw.
Here we go.
Officially, the Lions have opened up his 21-day practice window for Ennis Rakestraw, which heading into this postseason, you get another DB. This makes sense. I mean, you remember when we talked about it? Only a certain amount of activations from IR the Lions had. Makes sense why Dave Montgomery didn't go to IR, because they knew they were going to bring up guys like Rakestraw, and they knew it was going to happen eventually. So Rakestraw's back. I think it's good news. You get depth, given anything can happen, and you have Terran Arnold kind of dealing with something. I think he'll play though, so I'm not too worried about it. But if I'm being honest, this is just depth. You know, I don't know how much Rakestraw you're going to see out in the playoffs, if I'm being honest, because unless people feel comfortable if you have two rookie DBs out there, that's where I'm at right now. Yeah. He's going to be a special teamer. He's going to make plays. And if there is an injury, you have depth. That's where I'm at with this Rakestraw news, to be honest.
I even think outside of the depth, like even if he comes back and he's healthy, like Kindleville, people don't want to hear this. In those spots, like if you're like, oh, someone goes down hurt, here comes, it's going to probably be Kindleville door. Like that's, I'll prepare Lions fans now. Like
for a playoff run, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if a guy goes down in a game or, you know, you need someone to start and step up if one of these guys get hurt, Kindle Vildor is going to be the next guy. Now, the only fact is you have someone behind Kindle Vildor, because you really, after that, who was next? Like, who's next man up? You didn't have that. Now it's Rakestraw. And honestly, and it's just his 21-day practice. He might not even be ready for the divisional. He might have a couple weeks to go until he can come back. But like even special teams, man, like you have guys that like have been hurt. You have guys up and down on the practice squad. At least you know he's a solidified special teamers who hey, the man makes plays on special teams.
He does.
He flies around. Like he's an asset. And we talk about how good how big time the special teams is. I thought Penn State just scored a touchdown. Threw me off for a second. I was like, oh no.
Drew Aller.
I took Notre Dame.
Hey, he just had a nice little thought. He did.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I think the Rakestraw thing, like I'm excited to see him back. People need to like temper their expectations a little bit. Like, I'm not saying like don't want to like, oh, I don't want to see him anymore. Like, no, like, yeah, it's exciting to see him. He's just probably not going to be like that big of a piece defensively for this defense if he does come back for the playoffs. It's going to be the special teams. He's going to be a kind of that second, third guy in if they need someone. But I think you're solidified right now with the secondary you have with Terrion, Carlton, Branch, Iffy, and Kirby, and then Kendall Vildor's that next man up. He's basically like your sixth man. Oh man, Drew Aller just threw an interception. Oh, tough.
Doesn't fit the narrative. Doesn't fit the narrative. Hey, but can we have a trust circle here, boys?
That's tough.
Trust circle here, boys. Is it wrong to say that like I don't want to see Ennis Rakestraw out there? Like I would.
Why? I would like to know the reason though. It depends.
Because I just, as far as he's barely played as far as on defense, special teams, I don't care. Like I agree with you. Play him on special teams, but he's hardly play any football. Yep. He's going to be primarily in the nickel, which means who's going to come off the field? Brian Branch. Now, I guess if Branch is absolutely gassed, I get that. I shouldn't say never on the field, but I would like to see as little as Ennis Rakestraw on defense as possible. Let me put it to you like that, just because I simply do not trust him. Like, I understand that he can hit. I understand that he's an aggressive player, but as far as in these moments, like if they see Ennis Rakestraw on the field, that's who they're going after. And he hasn't really had any of that development. And in the playoffs, like, I don't think that's a great way to start it off for any player, but especially a rookie corner. Like, he's going to be targeted, and I feel like that hurts progression in the long run. I think you got to put him in a position to succeed, and that's not it. Yeah,
I think that's I think that's fair, to be honest. Because, like corner, especially as a rookie, that's a tough position. We've talked about it a lot. It's a tough position in the NFL, yeah. And then to be like, hey, I really haven't gotten reps all year long. And then all of a sudden, hey, coming off an injury just because we have some injuries, hey, you're automatically thrown in the fire. I would probably, and this is crazy to say, probably do trust Vildor more than Rakestraw.
I do.
In the playoffs.
I do.
Because of the experience and him getting the reps all year long. I like that, Klotz. And coming off an injury.
That's about right. I mean, I don't want two rookie DBs out there in a playoff run. I don't think anyone would. So I'm with you. I think let them just learn, play on special teams, gain experience, practice, get comfortable, and then next year you'll see maybe, hopefully, with him developing correctly, more of Rakestraw. Hopefully there's no regression or anything. But yeah, I'm with you, Klotz. That's not crazy at all. I think Vildor right now, they would. I think the coaching staff, if they pulled you aside and were like, hey, and you asked them, they would be like, yeah, we trust Vildor, like right now, over Rakestraw. Yeah. So. Well, another coaching, speaking of the coaches, Hank Fraley interviewing with the Seattle Seahawks. Hold on. Okay. I saw this. I had to do a double take. I'm like, hold on. Hank Fraley, Seattle Seahawks, offensive coordinator. And then it clicked in my mind. It's like, okay, the Seahawks, bad O-line. They probably want a coach that specializes in that, but not just that. They can't run the frickin' ball to save their life. So they want someone. And Hank Fraley's been more involved in this run offense than people expect. So they like what Hank Fraley brings to the table. I've also seen that Hank's been looking around for passing game coordinators, kind of just in case he were to go, who he would take. This isn't official. He took an interview with the Seahawks. But I'm going to be honest, it did kind of surprise me for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't think Hank, and again, I don't know him personally, but I didn't know Hank's had aspirations to be an offensive coordinator. I think that's something that kind of did surprise me a little bit. I always thought he would be someone that just sticks with the Lions for a long period of time. He's just kind of the offensive line coach, loves what he does. He's with Penei Sewell for over a decade, all that stuff. But then I thought about it, and I was like, well, the Lions are at that point right now where teams, if they can't get AG or Ben, well, they can't get Dan, so they're going to look at AG and Ben. If they can't get them, who can they get? So they're going to start trying to pluck coaches left and right and be like, we just need to take pieces of this organization. I mean, Tanner Engstrand got interviews last year to be an offensive coordinator. I'm not saying he's not capable, but what I'm saying is teams are going to, it's a copycat league, man. It's what teams do. And I think Hank Fraley is going to probably get more requests. I don't know what to make of this report. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if there's a real possibility he leaves, or this is just one of those instances where he takes an interview and says, I'm coming back. I don't know how serious he is about doing it.
There are those situations like a Tanner last year. I don't know if Tanner was going to get the OC jobs that he went and interviewed for. And like Tanner, it feels like maybe there's a sense that so many guys go get interviews, especially head coaches. You see like 15 guys interviews. It's like, hey, they can only get one guy. And obviously they're all fighting for the job. I do think there's a sense of like guys like Hank Fraley going to interview to get experience, knowing like, hey, in the next few years, I do want to become an OC. That's the next step in my career. And he's like looking at it saying, hey, I have an opportunity to go, interview for this Seattle job. I'm going to do it. Hey, best case scenario, they do offer me the job and I'm able to go be an OC and kind of take that next step in my career. Worst case scenario, I just got experience and I'm going back to Detroit. Or on top of it, he was rumored last year, and I think it was almost set in stone. And this is why I don't think Tanner Engstrand goes with Ben Johnson. When Ben Johnson was potentially going to take the Washington Commanders job, he was the rumored OC that was going to leave with Ben Johnson, and he was going to have Hank Fraley on as the OC. And you know what that's for, Jeff? That's the run game. While Ben Johnson can handle the passing game and he can handle the offense as a whole, you have, one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL and run game coordinators, and you could throw him in there at OC. So I think if Ben gets a head coaching job, like I feel like instantly Hank Fraley gets that job. And I know people have talked about the Tanner thing, but I think Hank Fraley is the one that goes with Ben and snags that job up. But it's crazy. Like the Lions, boys, I don't know where you guys are at with it. I'm like stuck in between. Like, I think it's really good that the Lions are starting to get a lot of coaches taking interviews, but it's also like there's chances every year we just lose a bunch of guys, and that it's like a bittersweet type of thing. You're like, I don't know how to feel about this right now.
Yeah, I agree with you, Boone. I think it's a good thing, obviously, because that's coming with teams who have success. Somehow, like, you rarely see it, but like the Giants offensive coordinator, the Giants is getting jobs. He's getting looked at by the Bears. Shocker there. But when you're an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator for a winning team and you're legitimate, you're going to be getting looks. And I think if I'm Hank Fraley, man, even if, like, let's say Ben gets another offensive coordinator, like, I'm taking the job. Every coach that Ben talks about it, AG talks about it, guys like Kelvin Shepard, Scotty Montgomery, they all want to move up. And if you're Hank Fraley, if you look at Seattle's past draft, like, they have invested heavily into that offensive line. But as it hasn't turned out, if you look at what Hank Fraley has done with Penei Sewell, look at Kevin Zeitler having his best year ever, Frank Ragnow stayed at an elite level, Graham Glasgow, Taylor Decker, like, he has learned how to develop guys. Chris Mahogany stepped in and was a stud. You look over there, you also see Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, JSN. Like, Hank Fraley, I love him to death. Hope he stays. But if I'm Hank Fraley, I'm taking that job in Seattle. I don't know if he will, but if I'm Hank, I'm doing it. And you can't be mad at him. Like, I think it's good for Hank because this offensive line is so talented. Like, if you're an offensive line coach and you're looking to move up and stay at the same rank, like, you're taking the Detroit Lions offensive line. You're taking 3 offensive lines if you want to develop an offensive line. You want to look at Atlanta, you want to look at Philly, and you look at Detroit. So they're going to get a guy that knows what he's doing. I trust Dan Campbell if Hank leaves. But at the same point, to your guys' point, like, it would suck.
Yeah, I think too, like with Hank, like 100%. I don't know if he'll get the offer, but if he gets the offer, he's gone. There's no reason to turn down an OC job, especially if you're going to be the one controlling that off. It's not like he's going into like the San Francisco 49ers and he's not going to be calling plays, or he's going to the Rams, or he's going with Ben Johnson. Like, Ben's calling the play. He would be the play caller and he would be the guy with doing everything. And he's like the main offensive coordinator. So like, yeah, if he gets that job in Seattle, you take it and you run with it. And that's a great start to your career, especially over there with DK and Geno and that squad there. Like, Kenneth Walker, like Zach Charbonnet, you have some dudes there, especially for a guy, an offensive line coach. Like, you're salivating looking at the 2 running backs you have, and you're like, okay, I'm about to make this offense different.
I mean, it's not just Hank. I mean, Deshae Townsend, he interviewed for the 49ers job, which, I mean, if you're the 49ers, you just hired someone that didn't really have any experience and you fired him a year later. Like I they got to go get Robert Saleh if I'm the 49ers. But again, they're just going through they're interviewing, and I'm happy for Deshae. I think
it's huge for him.
If you see mic'd up stuff with him, dude, like the DBs love him. He's been great for everyone in that room. I don't know what to make of this either. I don't know. I don't think this is as realistic as Hank Fraley leaving, but it's still it's back to what we were talking about. Like, guys are going to get more of these interviews. It's just like, you got to just accept. I'm surprised Tanner hasn't been reached out to already. They're probably telling
or Kelvin.
My first thought seeing both of these guys today was it's not against them, but like I felt like there were guys on this staff that, can I be honest with you guys? And this is the conspiracy. Let me throw on my, what is it called? My wizard hat. Maybe they have been reached out to, and they both said no.
And they already know they're getting promoted.
They know like, hey, if these guys leave, I'm staying. And Dan has spoken with them. Obviously, Dan has to go through like NFL rules. I'm sure he has to go through interviews. Maybe people have reached out to Kelvin and have also reached, because there's zero chance that Tanner had 2 interviews or 3 interviews last year. There's no way he didn't get one, and then I'll go through this year again with the offense that they've had again. And it's like very well known his role was increased and that he has had a bigger piece into this offense, and him not to get another OC opportunity. And maybe that's because some head coaches haven't been hired yet in this cycle. So that's a big reason why too, I'm sure. But like, there's no reason Tanner, and then the way the linebacking core with Kelvin, like, I'm wizard hat. I'm thinking they got offered and they said, hey, we're good. We're going to either stay or we're going to become the DC and OC here in Detroit. Cause that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing
insane.
You're seeing the water get a little warm with Ben Johnson. I mean, the Jags, apparently it's been reported, Jay Fowler of ESPN, which he's pretty reputable. It's pointing to Ben Johnson being quote intrigued by the Jacksonville Jaguars job. But he'll want his own general manager, which you've already seen ownership Khan come out and say, we would move on from Trent Baalke if the head coach we hire wants him to go. Seems like that's something Ben Johnson would want if he were to get hired. We talked about this before, but to see a report that he's intrigued, you don't just put this out unless Jeremy Fowler just said YOLO and put it out. Unless you have something like maybe you got contacted. Maybe he reached out to the Jags and the Jags said, yeah, we talked to his agent. He's kind of interested. Like, there's some information that's being shared here for Jeremy Fowler to put out he's intrigued. So I don't think this means Ben's going to the Jags, no doubt. But I do believe the report that I think he is intrigued. It's like intrigued is like it's like open-ended, it's like, it doesn't mean
word.
Yeah, it's broad. That's the right
it's
term.
An intriguing job.
Doesn't mean, it's like a lot of things are intriguing, like life's intriguing, you could use it for a lot of things. Doesn't mean you're going to,
Drew Aller's intriguing.
Yeah. See, you could say intriguing for a lot of things, but I think this is interesting, fellas, because the Jags, and we've talked about it, Jags are in a bad division. You get a quarterback that's extended. He's not going nowhere. I mean, Ben has the power with that organization to be like, hey, well, I want my GM. I mean, I don't know. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. They're in the AFC, so I'm even more supportive. But in all seriousness, like, besides the AFC, I don't like. He goes to that division, dude. I'm telling you, in a year, he's already going to be right up there. Give him a year, a draft, a developmental year. They'll be competing pretty quickly. So I don't hate this. I mean, the Pats job seems it's going to get locked up by Mike Vrabel, if I'm being honest.
It does.
This would be the job
spot. It's not the worst spot. But this is just my opinion. No one knows what's truly going to happen. So we can think what's going to happen. What I think should happen is, if you're Ben Johnson, why go to Jacksonville? I feel like if you go to Jacksonville, you are simply settling. Like, Ben Johnson in a year or two can get so much of a better. The king, the prince, and Trevor Lawrence. Like, I'm sorry, you don't have the best quarterback in your division. You could possibly have the best wide receiver, but then you just look at that defense. It's a mess. That offensive line, it's a mess. That running back room, Tank Bigsby, go for it. Travis Etienne, burnt already. You're not going to re-sign him. There's a lot to be done in Jacksonville. The one thing that you have going for you is you have a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. But I think even out there, like Ben Johnson, if you want to develop something, there's better pieces quarterback-wise, even in available job openings, that I think you develop besides Trevor Lawrence. But who knows what's going to happen? I just think Ben to Jacksonville, I don't think it's a good idea. Ben could do some, like, He's settling for a 5.
I just want to
get an 8 or a 9.
I want to throw this out there. I'm learning a lot I've learned a lot about you the last few years. During this coaching little carousel, I learned something new. It's hard for you to let people go. Like you really, it seems like you really love AG. You love Ben Johnson because every single job we have ever talked about for AG and Ben Johnson, you're like, I just don't think they're
like, let's think about it.
I know, but like, I agree with you. Like, but you're never, listen, there's a reason coaches are being fired and there's a reason these jobs are open. And it's because the organization, the GM, the players, like they've been bad and they're losing. So you have to be able to look and be like, okay, yes, they are all bad. Klotz. There's a reason these head coaching positions are open. They are bad. But okay, which ones are the best? They're all not good. All right, how do we label these the best? Like, if you had to look at the coaching or the team options right now, I think number one, majority of people would say, hey, probably one is Jacksonville if they got rid of their GM and a coach was able to go in there and do his own thing. And if Shad Khan or whatever his name is took a step back, fired the GM and said, go out there. You have pieces on defense. You have offensive weapons. You have Trevor Lawrence, who – if you give him a Ben Johnson, it's like he's like Kevin O'Connell. Like you're going to start looking at him as like an offensive whisperer, a QB whisperer. Like give Trevor Lawrence and Ben Johnson together over Doug Peterson. Like Doug's not doing anything Ben can't do. It's like, yes, that's probably the best opportunity out there. Like, and that's just what it is. Like if you ranked them, like, I get what you're saying. It's not, none of these jobs are good, Klotzy.
I would say Jacksonville.
Let him go.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not the worst, but if I'm Ben Johnson and I think he'll get an interview there, you go to New England. Like, you get Drake May, quarterback.
He's not going to have an opportunity to, though.
I think if New England's going to interview Ben Johnson, you don't think they're going to interview Ben Johnson?
They're interviewing 10 people.
I understand.
It's already
that,
confirmed.
But I'm saying
he's interviewing with them tomorrow morning.
Ben Johnson, like, if Ben Johnson, like, New England, I want to go there. I
agree. Drake May, yes, I agree.
But I would guarantee Robert Kraft would also be like, Ben Johnson, what do we have? A rookie quarterback. We can bring in a defensive culture guy and Mike Vrabel, but we just did that in Gerard Mayo. Obviously, Mike Vrabel, much, much better coach. But it almost makes sense more for New England to take an offensive
I think that's obvious. I just think it's realistically that's Mike Vrabel's job. Like he's going to interview tomorrow.
You're absolutely right.
I would love for Ben to get that.
Like, but my whole point is you're saying that, like, I don't think you should go anywhere. Like, I don't think you should go to these dog water organizations when you can go to I think Jacksonville is one that I'd be like, okay, good luck there. Like I don't ever see like Jacksonville winning a Super Bowl. I think that's just, unless they have some like crazy development on the defensive side of the ball. But New England with a quarterback like that, I think they're going to have a top 3 draft pick so they can trade down and you can build around that quarterback defensively. You have Christian Gonzalez. You have guys on that front 7, and they just drafted 2 wide receivers this year, and they're going to draft more next year, especially with Ben. He's going to find his guys. So there's places he could go. Just Jacksonville is just like, you got Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas, but that's it.
Would you rather go to Chicago or Jacksonville? I would rather go to Jacksonville.
Jacksonville for sure.
So like we're talking about Klotz. I'm just saying like realistic options. Mike Vrabel gets the Patriots job. Realistic options. Like if we're looking each other in the eyes, being realistic, those are probably going to be his options. And then potentially the Raiders job, which they have Aiden O'Connell and they just fired their GM, which I would think, and the reports in my mind are they fired him because of a guy like Ben Johnson. I'm not saying just Ben Johnson, but some of these younger coaches who want to not bring their own GM in, but they want to come in with a new GM and build together. I think that's why they did it. So like, I think the 3 jobs for him are there. And number 1 on that list, and I'm Jeff, it seems like where me and you are lockstep with that. It's probably 1 Jacksonville and then maybe Bears and then Las Vegas. Patriots, obviously with Drake May. I mean, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks at one point of his career, I'm sure, in the NFL. I just, again, like I'm locking that in like
Vrabel.
Like AG today called them and said, I'm not doing an interview with the guys because I'm sure either.
I think that had to do with something else too. I think that was the Gerard Mayo stuff, if I'm being honest. I don't know. That's just, again, I don't know for sure, but they fired that man in a year. I think AG went, okay, yeah, we're good. I'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah. That I don't think so.
Okay.
Robert Kraft did come out and say like Gerard made it. He said he liked it, and I kind of respect him for it. Usually owners don't do it. He was like, that's on me. He just wasn't ready to take over an organization. AG is. He has been ready.
So you think AG didn't want to do an interview because he thought a head coach would already be taking it?
I think there's two reasons, and this is
but
Wizard hat.
But he'll interview with the Jets, who have 15 interviews.
I think he feels like he has a good chance with the Jets. Wizard hat, two reasons. One, he feels like Mike Vrabel already got the job, and he's like, hey, whatever you, or they might have told him that. Either way. Or two, he thinks Ben Johnson has an opportunity to overtake Mike Vrabel, and he's like, and Ben might have told him, that's a job I really want. And AG said, okay, I'll step back. I have other opportunities, other jobs. That's a Wizard hat move right there, Klotz.
It's a Wizard hat.
Hey, Ben Johnson told.
I don't celebrate the Ben leaving thing, but I just, when I look at Ben Johnson, like, I'm a Patriots guy. Like, he just seems like
we'll love that for him, dude.
Like,
yeah,
he's a Patriots guy. Like, put him in the AFC East, contending with Josh Allen. It's gonna be hard for him to win it, but I think instantly within the next 2 years they'd be fighting for a wild card spot in the AFC for
Drake
sure.
May is good too, man. Drake May is going to be very good.
Like, imagine if they just took, well, we'll go Travis Hunter here. You put Drake May with Travis Hunter, and then you got Christian Gonzalez. You could have Christian Gonzalez and Travis Hunter.
That's a tough defense.
I mean, yeah. You're if there two things can be true. One, that the Jacksonville job, just from the division, you get a quarterback, you're going to get a GM. You don't have to. You don't have to. It's like the Patriots. Seems like they're keeping their GM, so you got to like him. Or the Bears, you got to like Ryan Poles. So I like the Jags job's intriguing. So I agree with Ben there. But two things can be true. If I'm Ben, I'm going to stay. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see if there's a better opportunity next year. That's what I would do if I was Ben Johnson. I wouldn't settle for the Jags job. And I know it's one of 32. Like, I get it. It's a lot. It's money, guaranteed money. But at the end of the day, if you're Ben Johnson, you're gonna go back to an offense that'll probably be top 5 at the very minimum next year anyway. And then, and by the way, I just thought about this too. It's a great comment. Drake and Ben both went to UNC. That's a great point.
Honestly,
didn't even put that together. But I would wait.
I was thinking about Drake, the rapper. I was like, he's a Duke fan, man.
I would wait because there will be better jobs opening up. I mean, my whole Kansas City Wizard hat thing, it's going to be a couple years. But even like the Bengals job, we talked about that. Like, give it another year, you never know.
Or Bills say the Bills losing the playoffs this year and next year, and they're sitting there like, dude, we can't win in the playoffs. You have to make a move.
You can go get Josh Allen.
Mind like that.
But if Ben wants stability, that's the move. I mean, name the last coach the Jags had for over a decade. Like, it's just
I literally don't think they've ever. Maybe
they need to build like the Lions have. They need to. And actually, who was the coach that took them to the AFC Championship?
That was.
Why did you just ask me that?
I have a good wild story about the man.
Hold on, I know
the head coach I coached for at Saginaw. That was like his uncle, his wife's uncle.
Who was that head coach?
He would like go to the games.
That was Doug Maroney.
Oh yeah, Doug Marone.
No, it might have been the guy. Who was the guy before him? I don't know. There was a Jags coach we used to do.
Drive me nuts. Oh, was it Jack Del Rio?
No, I don't know. Hold on.
No. I think he was on the squad. I think
Jaguars.
That I don't know, if I'm being honest.
Let me see, because there was a coach that they had.
That's gonna drive me nuts.
Peterson. Here, I got you, boys. Don't worry. Oh, is it Gus Bradley?
No, I don't think
Gus Bradley was 13-16. Doug Maroney, AFC Championship. Yeah, I was thinking of Gus Bradley. He was 13-16.
Doug Maroney. I don't know what happened to Doug Maroney.
Yeah,
what happened to him?
I don't know. Gus Bradley, though, I had to write letters to Gus Bradley for fundraisers. I was like writing letters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'd be like, from Booner. Like, good luck this year, coach. That was funny. It was so weird. He was like our head coach's uncle. It was like,
oh, that's cool.
God, I forgot about Doug Marone.
Yeah, I thought it was Gus Bradley, to be honest. I didn't realize that there was that like little turnover there.
Yeah, I mean, look at this.
Bortles, Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson era.
Look at this, Mr. Detroit City. If you work in the hospitality industry in Jax and have a beer rep, you literally have unlimited free Jax tickets. The stadium is always empty. No fans ever. Like, yeah, it's tough.
And I want to, can I just make sure, because there's some people in the chat, like, I still think that the way all of this falls down and the way it all comes out and happens, like I think, and this might be a crazy thing. I already said it the other day. We did our final predictions on, I think AG leaves. I think Ben Johnson's back next year. And it's just based off of the positions and the interviews that Ben's taking. Again, like the Patriots, Mike Vrabel gets that. The Bears, I feel like there's going to be something that ends up intertwining with that ends up making it to where he doesn't want to go to the Bears. The Raiders, you don't have the players and all of the things that stack up to where you're like, yep, that's a very nice job outside of Tom Brady now being the owner and then them firing their GM. And then like with Jacksonville, to your point, Klotz, like, yeah, they kept their GM. And is it that attractive if you have a guy like that sitting there who is just like, he should be fired? Like, to me, there's just like that big question mark there. And when like all of that goes down, and I feel like a guy like Joe Brady, who hasn't been on the level as Ben Johnson for the years, but he can coach. Like this year, he's been very, very good. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like, he gets an offer and instantly he's like, yeah, I don't really have the options, but I finally just got a head coach. I'm taking that. Boom. Or like another offensive mind takes it. And then Ben's sitting there and he's like, yeah, I'll just sit another year. That Jared Goff comment really threw me back and really made me think that Ben ends up back here. Him saying, what did he say? He was like, I told him I want him back here for another year at least. So that made me think like they've had conversations.
Well, we're going to get to our at 9:00. We'll get to our playoff under pressure teams a little after 9:00. But I'll ask you guys. I want to get into it now. Talk more playoffs for the Lions. We've talked a lot of coaches and where they're going. But I'll ask you, at least for players, not for coaches, players, who in your guys' mind has to step up the most for this team to be Super Bowl champions? It could go offense. We could start defense. Because I think for me, the biggest one, I'll go with this player, has to be QB1. It has to be Jared Goff. I think that the offense, if Jared Goff plays the way he's been playing over the last handful of games, that's your ticket. He has to play clean football. I know he turned it over twice against the Vikings. Jared needs to play clean football, efficient football like he's been doing all year. That's the guy in offense. I mean, we can debate, Jameer. I think the biggest one, the obvious one, would be Jared. I can name another one if you guys want to get rid of that one, right? But that's the biggest.
No, honestly, that Jared Goff was mine too. So yeah, I have another one ready to go if you need it.
But defensively, you want to? Well, we'll stay offensively. I'll go someone besides Jared. You already brought that up. I think a big one. I think for this playoff run.
Wait, offensively or defensively? What are you doing?
Well, you already had Jared. I was gonna think of another one.
No. You just did Jared. I got
okay. Then you can go. I'll let you go.
I'm gonna go in Klotz. I don't want to take yours. I hope I'm not. I mean, you could say, can I do a group?
No. You got a player.
Because Jared Goff was mine. I just want to say, like, going into the postseason, I think there's one glaring, like, what all right, what is this offense built off of, boys? Like, how have they been so good for 2 years?
Offensive line.
Yep. The trenches. Like, to me, I can't name one specific.
Yeah, you can name one.
Panay, you can say Taylor Decker. You can say them. Baby. As a whole, as a unit, you know what? My one is a unit. I want the unit to go out there, and they have it all goes down behind them. Everything starts with them and it ends with them. And if this offensive line isn't out there playing at the highest of levels, like they got voted, I've seen in different rankings, like second and third offensive line rankings in the NFL. They need to play as the number one offensive line in the NFL. You have the weapons. The weapons the last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks have been playing at an elite level without that offensive line being at its full capacity. You need to go in the playoffs, and those guys need to be at 100%. They need to be playing at a different level. They need to be playing like the best offensive line in the NFL if they want to go win a Super Bowl. It starts with the offensive line, ends with the offensive line. This year, I said it was the defense. The Super Bowl goes through the trenches, boys, offensively. And those guys are the guys. They need to step up. They have to.
Well, Booner, not only did you take my player, you took 2 of them. You went the whole unit. Mine was going to be Taylor Decker, and if somebody said that, it was going to be Graham Glasgow. Boys, I think the offense, you nailed it enough. We're switching to defense, and I think this is the second most valuable player, honestly. Jared Goff on offense. Defensively, I could say Amon-Ra, whatever on offense. You guys already know the story. it's Brian Branch, okay? Brian Branch, I think, besides Goff, is a player that needs to step up the most because when you look at it, Brian Branch, without a doubt, I love Kirby. Brian Branch is the best overall defensive player. And Brian Branch, as far as a playmaker, brings more to the field than Kirby because Kirby gets the interceptions, but so does Brian. Brian also forces fumbles. Brian also gets to the quarterback. He's good against the run. He's good against the pass, and he's a very smart player where he can help set up the Terrion Arnold. If Ennis Rakestraw comes in for a play, set him up for success. But Brian Branch is a guy that can just create havoc from all three levels of the defense. And when you look at the thing that's holding this team back, it's undoubtedly the defense. I mean, that's pretty obvious to point out. So the best player on defense, who's been he's been very good, but Brian Branch hasn't been Brian Branch level. That you haven't seen a big play from Brian Branch in a couple of weeks. Come the postseason, come the Super Bowl, you need that Brian Branch that you saw week 1 of last year against the Kansas City Chiefs in his first game ever when he's picking off Patrick Mahomes and taking it to the house. So I'm not going offensive, boys, because I was going to say Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow. Receivers are huge, but I think the second overall player besides Jared Goff is Brian Branch because that man can do it all, and he needs to do it all this postseason.
Yeah, do you want me?
No, go ahead.
My defensive one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'll say this. Klotzy, that was a good one. I love Brian Branch. I think, he needs to step up. The fun part about what you did there, I don't know if you were just naming the best player on defense. I'm going to go a guy who's probably not even top 5 best player on the defense, but he is starting to work his way up there. And if we're talking about, hey, you need a single player to step up and to play at his best and play at his ceiling and his highest level for you to go win a Super Bowl. Defensively, I think it's a very, very clear choice after seeing this Minnesota Vikings game. And I think that's the man who now has the task of covering and being on the outside at corner, Amik Robertson. Mm-hmm. Through a Super Bowl run. I think Brian Branch, obviously, him and Kirby are probably Kirby, Brian, and Anzo are probably the heart of this defense and the best 3 players on this defense. But when I think about it, I'm like, who needs to step up? Like, if this guy steps up, your defense is stout for 3 straight games and you win a Super Bowl. To me, it's just Amik Robertson. That corner position, we know what the NFL is. You're potentially going to have to go through Puka Nacua, potentially A.J. Brown, and then potentially in the Super Bowl, you're going to have to go through like a Hollywood Brown or some big body Amari Cooper with the Bills. And guess what? You need Amik to be able to step up and take that task on week after week after week and play at the highest of levels. So I would go Amik Robertson. I think he needs to step up, and it's not me saying he was bad. He was great. He was probably the best defensive player last week on the field. I'm just saying throughout the next 3 games, you need him to play at that level to continue to go win a Super Bowl defensively, at least to compete.
Yeah, I'll go on we'll have someone different because I'm thinking defensive line. I'm going to go Josh Pascal. In terms of stepping up. He needs to step up. And I've been saying this, but it's so, I mean, he has to prove he's a part of this team long term. It's just as simple as that. Are you what they thought you were when they drafted you in the 2nd round? That's a guy that I'm looking at. Can he be solid against the run? Absolutely. But pass rush, you're going to be facing potentially the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. We'll see how that goes. But good offensive line, great offensive line, actually. You're going to need to get after Jalen Hurts a little bit. Za'Darius stepped it up against the Vikings. I don't really have too much concerns about him, because he can only do so much. He needs help. And you could say DJ Reader, but I'm going to go Josh Pascal because he's going to play a ton of snaps. And El Muhammad's going to provide some pass rush juice, certainly. But Josh, you got to show more. You got to show more. In the playoffs, forces guys to grow up quickly. And he's a guy that, including other young guys. Terrion Arnold, another one, a rookie. Everyone has to grow up quicker. And Josh has already been in an NFC Championship game. He played last year in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. Played pretty well. But this run, he really has to step up because you have no Aiden. He's going to be playing a lot more. So I think if Josh steps up, man, you're going to get a lot more from your defensive line, and it's going to help you in the long run. It's going to help your secondary. It's going to help out the guys on the back end, like I said, but just everyone on the defense. And it's going to make quarterbacks uncomfortable. You don't want these guys sitting back there chilling. I'll say that, no matter who you're facing, even if it's Baker, Jordan Love, I don't care who it is. So I'll go Josh Pascal. That's who I think needs to step up.
Good one. He showed some sparks in the NFC Championship game. Come on now.
So did Levi O. A lot of those guys. Mohammed did. Oh, not in the NFC Championship. I thought you were talking about last week. That's how I thought you were talking about versus the Vikings. I was like, yeah, those boys stepped up versus the Vikings. They look good. NFC Championship. Imagine Muhammad.
I do wish for because there's
that'd
like
be
two
awesome.
narratives that would go well. One doesn't fit ours, but the Kendall Vildor forced fumble, and then Josh Pascal running it back like 40 yards. Great sight to see. I mean, name a more dynamic duo than Kendall Vildor and Josh Pascal in the open field.
I will say
you're not stopping that.
Kendall Vildor punching the ball out in a game like that. And this is what I sometimes with fans, he's gotten cooked. And this, I had this conversation, I think, with you guys. It might have been on air, or it might have even been off. But when guys have like one bad play, it sticks, especially in a game like the NFC Championship game. It sticks. And like Kendall has had some tough plays this year, but I think, who was it we talked to? It was someone that's in the building, or it was I don't know. I can't remember who it was, but we had the conversation with someone who was like, hey, Kendall actually, like, if you watch him, like, majority of the time he's not that bad. Like, he holds his own. There's a reason AG goes with Kendall more than like other guys off the bench. It's because like they do trust him and he does play. He holds his own. It's just like those one or two plays where you're like, those ones really stuck, and like fan bases don't let those go. That's what's tough about like a play in the NFC Championship game. It's like with Josh Reynolds, he was good all year.
It's
and
like
just two plays in the NFC Championship game ended his career in Detroit. And it's like, it's tough, man.
I get what you're saying, but there's a reason the Lions added 4 corners.
Agreed. He's not a starter. He's not a starting corner.
Not even start. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4.
Agreed.
Corners.
But there's a reason as well, Jeff, that he's still there in some of those. And Jerry, what? Jacobs is gone, and your guy Gilmore is gone, and the other guy's gone, and this guy's gone, and this guy's gone, and Kendall Vildor is the one that made it out of all of that as the 4th, 5th option, and he's the one that's still going. It's because he can play over all those guys. Like, he is better than the Jerry Jacobs. He is better. And I'm not sitting here saying you got to stop that. You got to stop that. You responding like that makes it sound like I'm like saying Kendall Vildor's the best. No. Saying he does hold his own. He does play well. It's just those 1 or 2 plays where it's like
you get reminded.
Bad timing, buddy.
You just get reminded. You're like, yeah, this is why that.
It's like he's not a starter for a reason, but he can come off the bench. Like Minnesota game, comes in, and knocks the ball out, and you're like,
his nose dirty.
That's a hey, that's a 6-man. That's a Jamal Crawford. That's a Lou Will type play, Kendall.
This is
talking about 6-man. I'm talking about first guy off the bench. Like, come in and make a play. You're saying him coming in and punching the ball out, him in a big situation.
He's not a 6th man. I'll tell you that.
Okay, this is where I want you boys to really learn.
This is where you're losing.
Jeff, did I say he's your 6th man?
You just said he's Jamal Crawford.
You need to no, I didn't. You need to listen. I need you to get some ear things and clear your ears out. I said it's that type of play, coming off the bench and making a big play, coming off the bench and hitting a big shot in a championship game. He came in off the bench out of nowhere, hit the ball out. You get the ball back. That's a big type play. Coming off the bench and making a play like that, a big time play for a turnover, that's a big play. That's like Jamal Crawford coming in, banging a 3 and being like, I'm not saying he does that all game and every game. He did it one time, and it was like, that's what you need from him every time. That's where you construed my words a little bit, and you're like, don't say he's.
You said it.
No, you got it. You got
it.
Like,
no. If you said it's Malachi Flynn coming out,
listen.
And getting 20 points,
I say it here on a level where it's like he comes in like as a 6-man and makes a big play, and then you go, "Oh my gosh, he's the greatest ever!" Like, come on, dude.
I didn't say he's the greatest ever.
You did name the greatest 6-man of all time. You named Jamal Crawford and Lou Will.
I did not mean that he does that every time. I'm just saying that one play.
He's the Lions Ginobili.
That one play, he came in and made a massive play, a play that one of those types of guys make. That's why they're the greatest ever, because they make those plays every time they're in the game. He made that play one time, and you were like, whoa.
He'd be like,
you guys just try to take that and run. I'm tired of talking about
Booner, I promise
I'm over this.
I think the way it was sounding, you were
like you just taking it a second ago and being like, there's a reason they brought 4 guys in. I didn't say he was a starter, Jeffrey.
I would say Kendall. Who's the he's like if AG was LeBron, Kendall Vildor is like James Jones. I think that's the comp you'd pull out there. Just somehow was always around. He's always on the bench. Get some action. Get him in for 2-3 plays. Get him out. Might get a 3.
Not comping him. I
I
wasn't giving him a comp. I was saying he made that type of play.
Before we move
Maybe
on,
you guys should listen a little bit.
Ken Rains, appreciate you, man. Appreciate the $5. Says as Ben goes, I hope it's to the Jags, AFC, and has tits to play with. I don't know what you mean by that last part, Ken Rains. I don't know what you mean by that, but we appreciate you.
Oh, because Urban.
Oh, is that why? Is that
wait? What is that? How does Urban?
You remember? Do you guys remember what happened with Urban Meyer when the cell phone video where he's like groping the chick?
Yeah, but that wasn't tits, though, was it?
Yeah,
I don't know what else you'd be talking about.
He said toys.
Ken needs to. Ken, I'm going to tell you, you need to figure out your autocorrect there, bud. That's
that's two different things.
Toys goes to tits.
Toys goes to tits. That's a tough look.
It's a doctor.
That's a tough look.
What kind of text are you sending?
That's like with people. Have you ever seen those things? Like, I think someone in like ESPN or something pulled up like their YouTube or something, and their ads. It was like a big time sports guy. Their ads were playing like some type of like porn webs or something. It was like porn ads, and he was like, I don't know why this is popping up like that. And then everyone's like, buddy, your ads basically are off of your algorithm once you look it up.
What are you looking up?
Popping up, and you're like,
what are you doing, dude?
Parker last year. That shit was so funny.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I appreciate Ken for that. That's awesome. Hey.
Yeah, we need to get Vildor 6-man shirts at this point.
Hey, I'll say this. I want to bring this up too because we talked about maybe who needs to step up, but at least looking back and reflecting at the Lions where they are now, I want to ask the question: who deserves the most credit where the Lions are right now? Who deserves it? Not a list. Tell me, who would you point to? Who deserves the most credit? I mean, are we going like
anyone? Be very creative. I have one right now. I have one.
That's how you know. That means Booner didn't go with the player.
No, because you know what? I made this segment up, and I was on the phone earlier with Jeff, and I said, be creative. And then all of a sudden, he's like, so are we doing play? Or are we doing very creative? Be creative. I wasn't creative, to be honest. Give me Dan Campbell. Give me Dan.
Oh my God. You can't do all that and be like, be creative. Give me Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell's not a player. It's creative. He's a coach. If you're telling me who deserves the most credit on this team for what's happened this year, I'm taking Dan Campbell. He's in control of everything. He's created he has created the culture. He has literally embodied everything that this Lions team is. You see the post-game press conferences. You see all of that. It's Dan Campbell. Anyone else, Dan Campbell is the main reason what's happening and going 15-2. He keeps guys together. When they were playing bad the first 4 weeks, guess what he did? He brought the guys together and said, hey, we might win by 1 point. We're going to figure this out sooner or later. When injuries happen, guess who was the one that picked this thing back up? Dan Campbell. He figures a way, he finds a way, and he gets the job done, and he keeps the boys going. That's what I love the most about it.
I mean, I'll just go with the guy that brought Dan all the talent. It's Brad Holmes. I mean, you can work with what you work with. And being as good of a drafter as he is, arguably one of the best GMs in the league, actually no argument at all. It's factual. And I think his ability to not only draft talent, acquire talent, evaluate talent, but also, be hand in hand with Dan and kind of assembling this team. I'm going to go with Brad Holmes. I mean, Dan Campbell's great. But I'm going to go with the guy that just keeps refueling talent for him, and I'll go with Brad Holmes.
Boone, you want a creative one? I got one for you, Boone. Okay, I'll go with Jared Goff, but more specifically, Jared Goff's pocket mobility and pocket presence. I think Jared Goff has taken a huge step this year, but where has that step been? If you watch after that Tampa Bay game, he threw 55 times, and then you watch, you're like, oh, Jared's kind of moving in the pocket a little bit. Jared's spinning out of some tackles, making some plays. And then you go and look at this offense and how valuable it's been. Jared Goff, not only in the pocket, not losing the ball every time somebody touches the wrist with their pinky finger. Because you remember going back even last year against the Bears. Jared Goff, if his hands got hit, the ball was on the ground. If a defender was near Jared Goff, they don't even have to touch him. Jared Goff was falling to the ground. This year, completely different story. Jared Goff isn't on Joe Burrow's status where he looks like Spider-Man back there, but we see Goff. Excuse me, boys.
Whoa, Klotz, you good over there? He's getting choked up.
I started dying.
Oh my God.
Dying, boys. I tried fighting it off.
He's getting choked up about Jared Goff.
Dude, what the
Jared Goff pocket mobility. He's developed as a quarterback. Huge reason why. I try to get creative.
What is going on? What is going on right here? What?
Water.
Did you just choke on your own spit? What just happened?
Dude, you know when you're like talking and you're like throat's like dry, your mouth's dry, and then it like gets to your chest, and you're like, I need to drink some water.
Okay, yeah. Get this guy in the blue tent. I mean, this is terrible. Hey, well, fellas, you know what I'm excited for? I'm really excited to see who your top 5 teams under the most pressure are. I really am, because
I'm interested. Boone said something, and it kind of, I was like, what? It was yesterday, so I'm interested.
Yeah, so we each have our own list. I'll go first. What's up, Boone?
Before we go, can I just throw congratulations out to someone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to congratulate my friend Lukas Klotz. Klotz, congrats, brother. National championship, Ohio State. National champion. Happy for you, buddy.
Thanks, Boone. Hey, still Tar Heel fan next year, though.
You have to be. But we made that bet. But at least you get a national championship.
I get to go out. I get to go out and ride off in the sunset.
Yep. Congratulations. I'm happy for you, man.
Thanks, Boone.
Why? Why? Was Penn State winning?
Remember, the game.
Zero chance Penn State beats Ohio State. Yeah, zero chance.
No. I'm saying the game. I'm not watching the game.
Penn State's up 10-0. But if Penn State goes to the Natty, there's no chance Penn State beats Ohio State. There's just
that game's going to be the first one to 17 wins. It looks like it's just gross.
Which it looks like Notre Dame's marching. So took them money lines. So that'd be nice to hit something.
Hey, fellas.
All right, let's roll. Let's do it.
You ready to do? I'm ready to cook here, because I thought a lot about this list, and I have some thoughts on if you guys don't have exactly what I have. So let's start this.
Yes,
all right, here. All right. Start with the right list first, right? I mean, it's better to start with that.
Right list always goes last.
All right. Top 5 teams under the most pressure going into the playoffs. Who are they, you may ask? Where are the Detroit Lions, you may ask?
You may ask.
Well, let me tell you. And I will tell you why. Okay? I will tell you why I have the teams in the order in which I have them. Starting at number 1, the Baltimore Ravens. In my opinion, this should be unanimous. Lamar Jackson, this is a man who, talent-wise, MVP-wise, Hall of Famer. Incredible. The only thing he's missing is a Super Bowl. That is something this year. The Ravens, he's never made a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's made one. There's been he's not in the MVP conversation this year. Josh Allen's never made one. Now it's the opportunity for Lamar Jackson. Putting up all these numbers, it's amazing. He has Derrick Henry. That was the biggest problem in last year's playoff game is, John Harbaugh, they decided not to run the football. Now you have one of the best running backs in the National Football League. He and the Ravens will be under a ton of pressure to go out there and make a Super Bowl, but at least make some sort of noise in the playoffs. If they bounce out immediately, they're going to be under a lot of scrutiny, including Lamar Jackson. So I have the Ravens 1. Number 2, similar but different, because the Eagles, the reason I have them over the Lions, and the only reason, is because of Nick Sirianni on the hot seat. I would have the Lions too, to be honest with you. But Nick Sirianni being on the hot seat changes it, because Dan Campbell's not on the hot seat. So Nick Sirianni needs this, or else he's fired. He's playing for his job or coaching for his job. So they're under pressure already. You get rid of your OC and your DC, and you replace them with 2 very good coordinators. But the Eagles are under a lot of pressure. You get Saquon Barkley. He has the year he has. He's in the MVP conversation. Like, they're going to be under a lot of pressure this playoffs, certainly. Then I get to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are under pressure, man. Like, they are. And I'll tell you why. It's not just because they're favored to win the Super Bowl, because that would be the obvious. I'll use Booner's point. By the books, they're favorited. So by the books, if they're favorited, what does that mean? They're picked heavily to go to the Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl. But besides that, They are the darling of the National Football League, right? This is the team everyone's been looking at all year, being like, wow, the Lions, they're here. Last year, you made the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. The 49ers aren't here. They are not here no more. So the Lions are looked at to take that next step in an NFC where they have the number 1 seed, which, by the way, the number 1 seed, you have more pressure because you have a bye week, you have home field advantage, all that. And I was told by my lovely co-host that this offense will carry them to the Super Bowl. So with that being said, they're under pressure. So they're at 3.
Thank you for calling us lovely.
Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not under a ton
They're under zero pressure.
But I disagree. This is a team that number 1 seed in the AFC. They're looking at to three-peat. They're in win now mode. The Chiefs are under pressure this year to make it happen. We'll be the first team ever to win 3 in a row. And with Patrick Mahomes this year, the record, the year they had, if they bounce out of the playoffs, you failed to three-peat. So I think there's pressure. I don't think they're under the most pressure than the 3 teams ahead of them, but I think there's certainly pressure on the Chiefs to go out there and honestly just win the Super Bowl, quite frankly. It's that simple. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills. Even though Josh Allen's MVP, and you could argue, well, he's MVP, he's having a great year, they should be higher. I don't think the Bills are under that much pressure, to be honest with you, because look at what Josh Allen's working with here. The dude's MVP for a reason. Actually, we talked about this when we talked about MVP. When you look at MVPs, guys that typically win it, remember we just had this discussion, guys. What's the biggest point? Well, guys win MVP when they have less to work with, right? So how can a team with less to work with be under the most pressure to win it all? That doesn't make sense. So I'm going to go with the Bills at number 5. I think, for Josh Allen, MVP year, it's amazing. But to say they're under a ton of pressure to go out there and win it all.
Discrediting this team.
No, they're a good team.
Continue to do it, just like in the offseason.
Hold on, Boone.
No, I'm not. How am I discrediting? I just said they're not under pressure. I'm not saying they're not a good team. But I think if the Bills make the Super Bowl, it's like, yeah, they're a good team. They're going to make a run. But if they fall short, yeah, you're going to look at Sean McDermott probably replacing him. But I think the team's under more pressure. No.
If you fall short, you replace your head coach. That means you're under pressure.
Hey, Boone, save it, Boone.
It's my turn. Let me talk. The Bills are on this list for a reason. There's pressure, but I believe the 4 teams ahead of them are under more pressure. That's why I have them, okay? If the Bills weren't under any pressure, I wouldn't have them on this list. So I agree they're under pressure, but they're not under as much pressure as the 4 teams ahead of them. That's how I feel about it. That's my list. Now you guys can talk. Thank you for allowing me to finish. Thank you. Jeff, I appreciate it. I really do.
I enjoyed the list. I can't criticize the list without putting my list up. So just
it's hard for me to
we'll just
saying what I
pull up my list, Jeff, and I'll start where you were, in my opinion, you missed. Clear out, just whiff. Because I like some of it. We agree with some of it.
I think you did. I think you have a couple right. I think you whiffed on. I think you whiffed.
All right, boys.
All right,
Klotz. This is, in my opinion, how the list is. When you look at the Buffalo Bills, they are my number 1 team. Josh Allen most likely going to be the MVP. Pressure. When you look at the other AFC teams in the playoffs, besides the Kansas City Chiefs, but Buffalo Bills are going to be at home. What does that require? Pressure. And you look back at who have the Buffalo Bills lost to in the playoffs outside of Josh Allen's first appearance in the Houston Texans, where he somehow almost won with Cole Beasley and John Brown against Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. It's been the Chiefs, who are at their probably over the last couple of years. This is probably weird to say it, but the worst Chiefs we've seen, even though they're 16-1, 15-1, whatever they are. And then the Bengals. The Bengals are not in the playoffs. Like the Bills. If you were going to ask me who's going to be in the Super Bowl, it's the Bills or the Chiefs, because those are the best 2 teams in the AFC. And then you look outside of that, this is the best supporting cast Josh Allen's ever had. They actually have a running game now with James Cook, who's second in the NFL in touchdowns. They have Amari Cooper, a veteran wide receiver, and they have a good offensive line to go with a very strong defensive front. Not only that, Joe Brady's probably gone, the offensive coordinator. He's going to go take a head coaching job, a man who has huge responsibility for the way this offense looks. And then Sean McDermott's fired. If Baltimore loses early in the division, you're not firing John Harbaugh. He's won a Super Bowl. He's in that Mike Tomlin thing where when John Harbaugh retires, that's when it'll be done being the Baltimore Ravens head coach. So Buffalo Bills, clearly number 1 to me. Number 2, and I don't think it's too far behind, is the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, they have that monkey on their back of they've been in the AFC Championship game too, just like the Josh Allen had been able to pull through. Lamar's the players under huge pressure, but even like Zay Flowers getting banged up in Week 18. Their defense, we know their defense is not good. It's turned around a little bit, but if Baltimore loses in the divisional round, like, I don't think that many people are going to be surprised. If the Buffalo Bills lose in the division round, you're like, what the fuck? This was Buffalo's year. I don't think this is necessarily Baltimore's year. But going to number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think when you look at Nick Sirianni, when they added Saquon Barkley, this is the best Eagles team we've seen overall in a very long time. I would take that even over the Super Bowl team that they won with Nick Foles and then the Jalen Hurts team where they made it to the Super Bowl and lost. This is the best Philadelphia Eagles team on paper. And you look at the coordinators they brought in, Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, 2 of the best in the league. You just look at the pressure that we talked about Nick Sirianni, but also Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has no excuses. I understand he's dealing with the concussions, but you have a running back in Saquon Barkley, all-pro wide receiver in A.J. Brown. And that defense, they've turned it around. Like, the secondary is legitimate. That front 7 is legitimate. And they're definitely in a spot different from the Lions and the other teams in the NFC that are actual contenders, where their window isn't as open compared to the Lions. So that's why I have them at 4. The Lions are at 4 because they're the clear favorites in the NFC outside of the Eagles. I put them above the Eagles. But this is kind of the beginning of the Lions. I think not that they have a built-in excuse, but if they didn't make the Super Bowl and it was because of the defense, no one would be shocked. Absolutely not. If they lost in the NFC Championship game to the Eagles, like, people would be like, yeah, okay, Aiden Hutchinson's going to come back. This team's going to be back here again. I don't think that's a guarantee with the Eagles. Number 5 is the Kansas City Chiefs because they're Super Bowl contenders. Like, everybody expects to see Mahomes, Reed, Kelsey in the Super Bowl if it's not Josh Allen. But they've won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Like, if they don't go out there and win a Super Bowl, who cares? Like, they have created Hall of Fame legacies over the last 2 years. So I think Kansas City, by the fact, though, that the Kansas City Chiefs has pressure. But if there's a year where the Kansas City Chiefs weren't going to win a Super Bowl, I think it is this year, just because offensively they're a little bit down. Getting Hollywood Brown made their offense look much, much better. Like, I was down on the Chiefs offense the whole year. That last week, or I should say second to last week when they had Hollywood Brown, offense looked like it was right back on track. So I like their offense, but even defensively, they've lost some key guys. They have Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, but they're missing some key pieces that they had last year. So I don't think this is the Chiefs' year to three-peat. I don't think they'll three-peat, but there's automatic pressure. But number 1, I wholeheartedly believe it's the Buffalo Bills this year. But yeah, that's my list, boys.
All right, Boone. Let's see.
Hey,
Let's see it.
Listen, let's see mine. Klotz, I think there's a similar with ours. I think, and I'll just say it now because you bring it up. I think the top 3 teams, I think you could put any of those teams at number 1 and make an argument. Like, I think the Eagles, you can make an argument at number 1. The Ravens, you can make an argument at number 1. And the Bills, you can make an argument at number 1. And I think they all have, like, validity to it because, like, the Ravens, I think under Lamar, they're like 2-6 in the playoffs or 2-5 in the playoffs. And he potentially could have his 3rd MVP. You can throw it up now, Jeff. I'll just talk through it. But like he potentially has his 3rd MVP now, and he can't win a Super Bowl. And I think there's a sense of in Baltimore, the one thing they can't do is like they just can't lose in a division. Like they have to make another run here, especially if Lamar goes out and wins his 3rd MVP. You can't see them an early exit. Like I think that's the same thing. I think with Philly, the thing with Philly is I think the reason that they're sitting there, and I think I almost put them at 1, is strictly because last season was one of the biggest downfalls I think we've seen out of a team in that aspect. Like what was it, 11-0 or 11-1, whatever they started, go out there and then they lose. They go on the road. No, they're at home and they lose to Tampa. Or did they have to go on? They went on the road and lost to Tampa, and they lost by 30. And then that going into this year, like you said, Klotz, they are literally one of the best teams in football. They're playing their best football that they've played under Nick Sirianni, and they went to the Super Bowl with him. And if they go out there and don't give anyone a run and they don't make the NFC Championship game, like Sirianni's probably out of there. And I think that's a problem. Like I know Harbaugh, he's not out of there, but I think you really start questioning everything. If another year, like dude, they have not gone to a Super Bowl since 2012 or whenever it was they went, and they've had an MVP quarterback every year. Like at least with the Bills, for me, it's like I think you're right, Klotzy, and this is where I got a little going with Jeff. They don't have pressure because they don't have anything. they have pieces. Like if you like this team, they've had pieces. They have weapons around him now. The defense, they've had young guys step up, and they've been like at times they can have a defense. I know versus the Lions did not look good, but they have pieces on that team to go win the Super Bowl and make a run at it. I think Sean McDermott is under a ton of pressure. I think Josh Allen's looking at it like, hey, at some point we have to get over that hump here. Number 4, and listen, people are probably going to say, why are the Vikings on here? I didn't look at this as a Super Bowl, fully Super Bowl. This is a playoff pressure list, not a, hey, who's going into the Super Bowl? Like, who? If you don't win the Super Bowl, you're under pressure. No, some of the conversations, Klotz, that you said, if they lose in a divisional round, if they lose this, I think one player outside of maybe Lamar and like a Josh Allen that might be under some of the most pressure in the playoffs because his career's on the line is Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold going into this playoffs at 14-3, and after coming off what he did in Detroit, as bad as he was, he has something to prove. And I think this Vikings team, they can't have another Vikings season what they had a couple years ago, where they, what was it, 14 wins they had a couple years ago, boys? Was it 13 or 14 wins? 13. And they went into the playoffs and lost at home in the wild card. I know they're on the road. You just won 14 games. You cannot lose round 1 versus the Los Angeles Rams. You cannot. If you do that, like that's such a failure of a season. Everything you've done is for nothing. Sam Darnold, you don't extend him. I just think as a whole, what has transpired with this Vikings team, I'm putting them at 4. And at 5, and I know, Jeff, where'd you have the Lions 3?
Yes.
The reasons I put the Lions at 5, boys, and you have to put them on the list. And Klotz, I think you had them at 4, so we have them 3, 4, 5. 1, you have to put them on the list because the Detroit Lions are Super Bowl favorites. But 2, the pressure has turned a little bit because you have 20 guys on the IR. This year, you put 20 guys on the IR. If guys were healthy, Jeff Iafrate, and you had Aiden Hutchinson, and you Carlton Davis, and Derek Barnes, and you had everyone healthy, fully ready to go, then I would say yes. It is Super Bowl or bust till the day you die. You have to win a Super Bowl this year, or the whole season is a fraud. You're done. Like it was a failure of a season. But with all these injuries and everything, listen, if the Lions go to the Super Bowl and they drop it, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, Dan Campbell, you choke. Not doing that. Be honest with yourself, Jeff Iafrate. If you're going to call the Lions, this is where it is. If you're going to call the Lions out for having all these injuries and say they barely have a pulse, don't on the other side be like, well, they have all these people and they have this team. They have to go out there and win a Super Bowl, so I'm going to put the most pressure on them, third most. No, you can't play both sides of it. So you're playing both sides. If you don't think they're that good to where there's barely a pulse and they barely can win a Super Bowl, they don't have that much pressure because people don't think they can do it. They can't.
I'm hesitant. You think they can do it, but also they're not under pressure. You're playing.
I think the pressure. I think once you like looking at the season as a whole, you've gone through 20+ injuries. Like if you didn't have the injuries, you're Super Bowl favorites by a million. All right, hold on, Jeff. Let me finish. This is my time. I'm talking.
You came at me.
Let me finish. Last thing I wanted to say. Don't come at me. Last thing I wanted to say, the Kansas City Chiefs shouldn't be on anyone's list. Klotz, I think you had them at 5. Don't hate that. But I just think, like, you've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. You won back-to-back Super Bowls. I think, and I'm not saying they're just going out there and not trying. I just think that, like, yes, they want to win a Super Bowl very bad in 3P. They are all in on that. I don't think, to be honest, though, that Patrick Mahomes is walking out on that field with any pressure, being I have to win a Super Bowl. He has won 3 in the last 5 or 6 years, whatever it is. He's won back-to-back. These guys know what it is. They know how to go out there. They have no pressure on them. They're not nervous. Yeah, but he has a whole career to do it.
Yeah, he'll do it.
I don't think he's sitting there being like, oh my gosh, this is my last chance this year to win another Super Bowl to catch up. Like, no, I have them at 6 on my list. They were the last team I took off. And it was just because, hey, they've already gone back to back. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my gosh. Like, there are teams right now, when I look at pressure, a 14-win Vikings team who they could go in and lose round 1 and their fan base is going to be all over them. That's pressure. The Bills. Hey, I'm still talking, boys. The Bills, who have been trying to win a Super Bowl for 5 years with an MVP candidate quarterback, with a head coach that's been on the hot seat. That's pressure. Sirianni, that's pressure. Lamar Jackson, potentially 3 MVPs, 0 Super Bowls. That's pressure. That's how I looked at this list, boys.
Boone, I got the point that you're saying about Sam Darnold, but it only applied to the Vikings, that conversation. Everybody else, we were talking about pressure to win a Super Bowl. If you have pressure in the playoffs.
Yeah, I just didn't look at fully Super Bowl. Yeah, I guess that's just on me.
I think even if, like, to what you just said, Minnesota Vikings fans, like, I think even if they get bounced in the wild card, they're gonna be like, that was a great fucking season. Like, they were projected to be, especially with the Bears hype, no one thought that the Vikings would finish second in the NFC or the NFC North, but let alone 14 wins. Like, I don't think there's a sad fandom. Obviously, they're going to lose a wild card game. Disappointing. But I think there's zero pressure. Like, Kevin O'Connell, for some reason, they haven't extended him yet, but after this year, he's going to get extended. Sam Darnold is what it is. They have a backup plan for Sam Darnold. They have their actual original plan.
I just think winning a playoff, like them going out there and making a run after going 14-3, I think honestly, I think there's more pressure on them going to win a playoff game in LA than there is for the Kansas City Chiefs to three-peat. Like, I think Kansas City's sitting there and they're like, okay, what happens. Like, if we three-peat, here we go.
They're not sitting there going, whatever happens. So the number one seed.
Yeah, obviously they want to win, Jeff, but I'm saying, like, I don't think they're sitting there being like, oh, like, this is the worst. Like, dude, they've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years.
They're 15-2.
They don't have. I promise you, the Chiefs aren't sitting there like we have. Oh my gosh, like it's Super Bowl or bust for us. Like,
dude,
they're not freaking out.
I mean, it is Super Bowl or bust.
Well, I'm saying like Super Bowl or blow the whole thing up. Like every year for the Chiefs, Super Bowl or bust. I'm saying to blow the thing up.
The Vikings.
I'm not talking about Super Bowl for the Vikings though. I'm not talking about.
You know what? No. Before, let's just throw it all out. I want to get to you with the Lions because this makes zero sense to me, and I want you to honestly explain. As me, I'm going to listen. How does a team who has the coach of the year, they're 15-2, they have they're favorited to win the Super Bowl. Again, you love to bring up the sports books. They're favorited, which means pressure. They have the 1 seed. Like,
I had them at 5 because they're favored.
But they're under a lot of pressure. Like, and if you want to say, well, Jeff,
they're under pressure. Yes, that's a great statement.
Please. Can I finish? The injuries. If you want to bring up the injuries. Which is fair. Like, I'm with you with the injuries, but then you're on my side, which is like the injuries are concerning. If you're that confident, live with the pressure. Live with the pressure. Embrace the pressure. Don't have a built-in excuse.
Don't need to show me if I can't talk.
No. I'll let you talk. Let me get my point across. If they lose, you're not going to come on this. I won't allow you to come on this show and be like, well, guys, it was a good year. They had a lot of injuries. I'm going to say, Booner, you told me, a very trustworthy source, that this team was going to do it. So they're under a lot of pressure.
This is where, Jeff, this is where you contradict yourself. You contradict yourself. Very bad.
You're doing it. You're literally contradicting yourself. You can't have your cake.
Relax. Take a step back.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say they're going to make it. Their offense. Oh yeah, this line too. But they're not under pressure. Like, they'll just have fun, guys. Like, no, they're under pressure, and it's okay. It's okay. We're here. Lions are here as an organization. It's okay to embrace pressure. They're the best team in the NFC. Like, they have to make it. If they fall short, what the fuck? We would all be like, that's insane. So okay, go ahead. That's where I'm at.
I'm good. We got things. I'm not gonna sit here. Jeff, like you say this whole time, they barely have a heartbeat. They have all these injuries. It's going to be hard for them to win the Super Bowl. It's more likely them not to win the Super Bowl for them to win it. Like, you're like, this is probably not the year, fellas. And then you're like, but they have the most pressure ever. It's like, no, if they have all these, if people are looking at them like, hey, they have 20 plus guys on IR, and you're sitting there and you're like, they have gone through adversity all year. They've lost some of their best players. They have gone through everything. And you're like, yeah, they don't. If they had a full roster, I'd be like, yes, they are expected to win. This team should win a Super Bowl, and if they don't, it's the most disappointing season that we have ever we've seen. But with the 20 injuries that you keep bringing up, that you keep saying is holding them back from winning a Super Bowl, that is you that says that, Jeff Iafrate.
Absolutely.
That means it takes pressure off because now fans look at it and saying, hey, they're really not expected. The pressure is off a little bit. They've lost 20 players on the roster. So the pressure is off because they're not 100% expected to win it anymore. Now they can just go out there and play with what they have remaining and say, hey, we got to scrap this thing together. Let's just go out there and play freely because people no longer, 2 weeks ago, we weren't even favored to win the Super Bowl. Everyone was saying there's no chance. Like you, Jeff, saying no, hold on, let me talk. There's 0% chance that they can win a Super Bowl. When you have people people saying there's no chance you can win a Super Bowl, that's when the pressure goes off and you say, let's fly, let's go win some football games. That's what they did. Jeff, if you were putting all the pressure and saying you have to go win a Super Bowl, then I would say you can put them in your top 3. Put them at 5 because they're the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl. But I'm not going to sit here and say they should be number 1, 2, or 3. No, it's wrong. What they have gone through this year, the hand that they were dealt, it changes everything. Yes, before the year, Jeff, I would say they're top 3 pressure. Going into next year, when everyone's healthy and you have everyone back, yes, you're probably first in pressure to go win a Super Bowl. But when you're looking at it and you're the one saying, hey, they have all these injuries, they probably don't have a chance to win it, pressure gets taken off instantly. And the reason I had them at 5 is because they're the betting favorite. But no one was expecting them 2 weeks ago to go out there and go win the Super Bowl because of all the injuries that they've encountered. So after that Bills game, you said it was over. It's done.
No, I'm honored. You're saying I dictate pressure? I'm honored. So whatever I think
I'm done. We're doing
pressure.
You just lost that argument. That's why you responded the way you did. That was why you responded the way you did. You had nothing to say. You had nothing to say, so you just said thank you. That was the worst. That was the worst. That was the worst comeback I've ever heard.
Majority people, including you two, Klotz, you had them at 4. You too.
I'm done with this.
Now, different. You know what? I should have saw this coming. Shame on me. I should have saw
that. Took all
you two picking them to. No doubt they're gonna win it all. But then also,
it's the fan base. It's the fan base. It's the NFL. It's the media. When the media and the fan base 2 weeks ago says the Lions aren't in longer expected to win the Super Bowl because their defense is depleted, everything about this team, they're done.
What did you say?
The Bills.
Hold on.
That is not how it works, Jeff. That is everyone taking a step back.
Boys, hey, both you had your time. My name was brought into this. This will be very simple for me.
Point I've ever heard in the history of crunch time.
Yeah, they're under no pressure.
Terrible.
They're under.
Jeff, this will be.
Yes,
my
they're under
point
pressure, but not that much.
This is
the
why.
Vikings are under.
You can't have it both ways and say they won't win a Super Bowl and then say there's no pressure.
Do I need to play the parent here right now?
Go ahead, Klotz.
Both you.
All right, I need to calm down a little bit.
To your rooms. Both you to your rooms.
We've got a great guest too coming up.
The Lions should not be in the top 3. 4 and on is fine. If the Detroit Lions do not win the Super Bowl, Dan Campbell will not be on the hot seat like Nick Sirianni, like Sean McDermott. If Jared Goff does not go out there and win a Super Bowl, he won't be scrutinized like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. I think the Lions in a year or two, especially with a healthy roster, will be in that top 3. But they're a top 5 team. They do have pressure because a lot of people expect them to, A, make the Super Bowl, but B, win it. So the pressure is absolutely there. But it's not there like Philly. It's not there like
just
Buffalo.
wants it both ways. He wants to
like
say they won't win a Super Bowl, and he wants to put all the pressure. You want to be like, they have the most pressure. They're expected to win the Super Bowl, but they're not going to win it. Like, can't go both ways, buddy.
Booner, it's my
opinion. We got a nice guest.
No, you're not doing that. You're not going to talk, and then we move
Chris
on.
is just sitting backstage right now.
Hold on. Chris, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, Chris. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry that you're just, you got caught contradicting yourself. I apologize.
Tell me when I can go. I'll go when I'm ready.
Tell me when I can go.
Okay, I'll let you. Listen, this is you. When you say, "Oh, Jeff, you're contradicting yourself," there's my opinion of what they'll do, which I do have my doubts, and then there's undoubtable truth. My opinion versus undoubtable truth.
The undoubtable truth.
The truth is they have pressure. You're going to come on this show if they get bounced, and you're not going to be like, guys, you know what?
Whoa.
Season. Like,
so the truth isn't they have 20 guys on IR. That's not true.
No,
that's
the truth
that's an opinion. Because that's pretty true to me. That's a fact, actually. That's not an opinion.
Booner's bets.
Not an opinion.
FanDuel. Check the betting favorite.
We got to get to the gas, man.
It's the Detroit Lions. They're favored.
You lost this one. We got to move on. That is how it is. Klotz it. Let's move on.
I enjoy. Hey, I
had fun.
I feel like whenever we have a rankings, boys, it just takes a right turn. Hey, great segment though. Hey, I'm writing this down. The one, the only.
We're not writing what down.
If the Lions get bounced,
we got to stop, Jeff.
We're going to talk about it.
I'm telling you, we got to move on. I love you. We got to move on. You got
we'll
fired
move on
up
when I'm ready to move on, and I'm ready to move on now. So
and I'll stop talking when you want me to stop talking, and you'll talk when you want to talk. Yeah, we get it.
Well, hey,
we get it. You dictate it all. Let's get
Chris. Listen, not the Jeff Path. We're not doing that. We do have a good guest. I would love Chris's opinion on this, to be honest with you. The pressure argument with who's under more pressure. But we do have a guest. He's the host of Chris and Company, does great work, covers the Tigers and the Lions. You can check him out on YouTube and on Twitter. Follow him, Castellani 2014. That is Mr. Chris Castellani. Chris, welcome to the program, my friend. You're walking into a shitstorm.
Dude, how am I supposed to follow that? I was listening backstage. It's like, man, I'm in a pretty mellow mood tonight. You guys might not get the best version of me, but we'll see. Obviously, I appreciate you guys having me on, though, as always.
Hey, Chris, we'll start. We'll get to the Tigers. We're going to talk both with you because I love to pick your brain with all this stuff. But now that we're already here, I love your opinion. And just where the Lions are, the pressure thing, weigh in on it. What do you think? You listen to us screaming at each other.
This is going to be maybe kind of a pussy take, but I do fall in line with kind of both of you in the sense that I think that it's pressure, but it's a different sense of pressure, where I think one of you guys brought up the Bills or the Eagles, where like, if the Bills don't win a Super Bowl or don't make it to the AFC Championship, I would suspect there's going to be probably some changes within the organization, right? Like, I mean, this kind of feels like not the last year of their window, but at least potentially with this current coaching staff and regime that they have. None of that kind of pressure is on the Lions. Campbell's going to be here next year. You are going to lose the coordinators, but they're not going to get fired. It's because they've done a really good job and they're probably going to get head coaching gigs. You're going to return a majority of your core with this offense that's been so explosive. So it's not the kind of pressure where you feel like this is the end of something. I do think, and I've just been around this as a fan in the past. And recently I remember experiencing this with Michigan football last year. There is, given the way that this season has played out, there has been a vibe throughout the year. Even with the missteps at points and the injuries, there has been this vibe of like, are they ever going to have a better chance? And I think that's where the pressure comes from. I don't know if it's necessarily self-imposed pressure necessarily, but when you look at all the things that could have gone sideways for this team that haven't, the way the offense has performed, the way that the way that Goff has looked, the way the defense has stood up in the last few games, I mean, especially against Minnesota, there's always going to be pressure on any team that has the number one seed in the postseason. I mean, yes, you have the advantage of playing home field throughout your conference playoffs, but at the same time, you are now the hunter, not so much the hunted at this point. So there's pressure. I think it's a different kind. But it varies per team. But yeah, no, I mean, look, there's definitely pressure when you're talking about a 15-2 team that's had the kind of magical season that they've had. There is that thought in the back of the head's like, we're going to be good for a long time, but how many opportunities are we going to have where the stars are going to align like this?
Yeah, hey, Chris. Hey, good seeing you too as well. It's been a little bit, but it's nice having you on. Sure. I do want to ask you just in general here, and I've got a couple Tigers questions. I'm going to stick here with the Lions real quick because we had it here. I just want to ask you, just in general, how you think this Detroit Lions playoff run is going to go. Are you confident that they can go win a Super Bowl after seeing everything with the defense last week? Even in the Bills game, the defense was so down, but then all of a sudden, boom, everything's going. What's your confidence level to go make a Super Bowl run this year with what they have?
It's high to a point that it scares me. This is uncharted territory for us, man. Yeah. I'm not saying that as a Detroit fan. I mean, I think all Lions fans feel this way. Last year was a lot of fun making it to the NFC Championship. And as brutal as it was blowing the lead against the Niners, I think there was a vibe of like the Niners lining up against the Lions. You can understand that there's probably advantages there in terms of the overall roster talent. Here, I mean, when I think of the games this team has lost this year, or the times in which they've almost come up short, like against Houston or against Chicago at Ford Field, it was more so self-inflicted wounds. I mean, you had a game where Goff threw 5 picks. Now you ended up winning. And so to me, when I look at the way this season has played out, like, yes, is there a possibility that something crazy like that happens where they have a game where they turn the ball over 5 times and lose? Yes, I would say the percentage chance of that happening is so minute at this point that it's hard for me to kind of put money on it. I think that this is the best team in the NFC. I think that this is the best team in football. I feel that way even with the injuries. And the fact is, look, last week I think was a really big turning point for a lot of people because Campbell, said after the Buffalo loss, like, look, we're just trying to win by a point. No matter how we can find a way to do it, we're going to do it. And look, had they have beaten the Vikings 17-16 with that great defensive performance, we've been like, awesome, home field advantage. That's great. But like, they won by 22. I mean, it was a 3-touchdown game where Minnesota didn't put the ball in the end zone. If that's what the kind of production you're getting from your defense when you're banged up, give it a few more weeks when you start to get some guys back, potentially even Aiden Hutchinson in the Super Bowl. So no, I try. It's hard for me sometimes because I view the Lions through a bit of a different lens than the Tigers, where the Tigers, it's just it's constant nerves all the time, and it's almost hard for me to be objective about certain things. I'm able to take a bigger step back. This is the best Lions team of my lifetime. I've watched a lot of NFL this year. I trust this coaching staff and this team as much as any Detroit team that I've seen in a long time. And while it adds to the anxiety, obviously, I think, I think that this is a team that's more than willing to embrace that pressure. Like, I think that their biggest obstacle will be staying out of their own way. If they do that, which they have for 90% of the season, I think they hoist a Lombardi.
I'm ready for a Super Bowl, Chris. I cannot.
It would be the coolest thing that's ever happened. Like, I acknowledge, with Tigers being my first, that's one for me. But for the city and for the fan base, nothing would top Lions Super Bowl. Yeah, it would be the craziest thing.
Yeah, Detroit needs it, Chris. And I really appreciate you joining again. Always a pleasure talking to you. Excited to learn about some more Tigers baseball because you always are informing me about it. But sticking with the Lions here before we transition, just talking about the Super Bowl. Playoffs are about to happen, hopefully Super Bowl. After it, though, there's another big step for the Lions to take, or more so coordinators to take, in Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. How do you think that whole situation will play out with both of those guys? What do you feel like is going to happen this offseason with those two?
I think my prediction is both of them will have head coaching jobs in the NFL next season. And I think that especially with Ben Johnson, predicted that last year, but I think that the iron is even hotter this year. I mean, Aaron Glenn, I think, made himself a ton of money just on Sunday alone with that performance, with the pressure they put on Darnold, keeping that Minnesota offense out of the end zone. Look, I think that having watched football and the older I get, the more I think that, look, the head coach really is kind of just the head of the whole thing. But the coordinators, man, that's where you make your money. I mean, that's how Harbaugh turned things around in Michigan. That's how a lot of guys turn things around. So it's going to be immensely important, obviously, that they can go out and get guys who hopefully run a similar scheme and fit into the culture. Where I have confidence now, as opposed to really any other Lions regime, is one, I trust Brad Holmes. I mean, his track record in terms of coaching hires, player acquisitions, drafts, trades it's almost immaculate at this point. But even beyond that, Detroit has become, for the first time in my lifetime, the place that players and coaches want to come to. Like, I legitimately think there was a time, and some guys have even been open about it, where, like, if you got offered, I mean, famously, like, Gronk chose to retire instead of coming to Detroit like a while back. And now you have this place where free agents hear about how great the culture is. They hear about how great the coaching staff is. They want to play here. I think it's going to be similar with coaches as well, where they can get some big name defensive coordinators, big name offensive coordinators to make sure that these guys are put in positions to succeed and thrive. Like, there will be an adjustment period because, I mean, Ben Johnson, when you look at the job that he's done with Jared Goff, it's second to none. I mean, he revitalized a guy's career. Will they be able to repeat that success? I don't know. But whoever takes over as the OC next year is going to be inheriting a situation with an elite offensive line and some of the best weapons in football. In a lot of ways, I'm not going to say it's too big to fail, but it's kind of hard to screw up with the guys that they have on that roster. And I feel that way defensively as well, because they'll continue to add.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, it's crazy to think about, too, 2025. I mean, now with a loss, the Pistons, they just lost. The Warriors.
Did they finally lose?
But Detroit teams, Red Wings, Pistons, Lions, undefeated in 2025 till today, of course, one loss. But Tigers, really where it started with the playoff run, getting the hype. Now going into 2025, I know the boys are going to ask you about School Bowl, but just for your insight on this, it's a feeling. I know Scott Harris seems to be strapped from Chris Ilitch. That's what the feeling I get. But based on some of the moves that have yet to be kind of made going into next season, what gives you hope that the Tigers can kind of build on the hype with Detroit sports and take that next step?
What gives me hope, and this is where it's kind of tough, because there is, and I'm sure you guys might ask about it, there is frustration right now with the lack of traction in free agency. And you kind of have to break it down into two different ways, where yes, that's a question mark and there is frustration. At the same time, I think organizationally, they are in a better place and they're putting their players in better positions to succeed than they have in decades, quite frankly. I mean, when you kind of look under the hood, which has been Scott Harris's kind of motto over the last few years, is these first 2 years, I need to assess what we have. You're talking about a team that, look, unbelievable run, right? And you could say there's fluky elements to it, smoke and mirrors elements. That's fine. At the end of the day, they made the playoffs last year, and they won a playoff series for the first time in a decade, which is hard to do. And they took Cleveland to 5 games, a team that won the division. You have a division that's kind of up in the air right now. You do have a good, solid young core. You have the best pitcher in baseball. You have probably the best pitching coach in baseball. You have a manager that people love. Like, all those pieces are there. But even beyond that, Harris, when he got here on day one, said our number one goal is we want to develop and retain good young young players. I believe that this was when he took over in summer of 2022, the 22nd or 23rd ranked farm system in baseball. I believe right now I've seen it as high as number 1. And that's with just 2 drafts under his belt. And they're going to have another one here at some point next season. I think that the way that they are evaluating, but even more so developing talent is better than it's been in my lifetime. Because when you look at the great teams that they had when they had Miggy and Verlander, like a lot of those were free agent acquisitions or trades. I mean, it wasn't so much building from within. This is building from within. That has me excited. And I think that in some ways, I don't think they go 38-11 again, but in some ways what happened in the latter part of last season is a precursor of what's to come, where Parker Meadows is going to get better. Colt Keith is going to get better. Riley Green, God, it feels like he's been around he's 24 years old. Like, these are young players. And yes, there's guys who you kind of have some question marks about, but I think that in terms of where they're at organizationally, they're in a really good place regarding their player development. The days of seeing a guy get called up and struggle for a long period of time and that really difficult learning curve, I think that's changing. And we saw some of that last year with the guys that get called up. So I think from that standpoint, they've talked about building the core. The core is there. And there's more to come with Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal and Jackson Jobe, who's probably going to make the team out of spring training. So I think that for the first time, it's not just in a long time, it's not just that they have talent, it's that they know what to do with that talent. I think ultimately that's what's going to make them successful.
Hey, Chris, something today, the news that came out, the Scooble news.
Mm-hmm.
I've been interested in that today because we've added Caleb on the network here. And he's a big Tigers guy. And I was texting with him about it. And he wasn't that happy about it. He was a little upset that a long-term deal wasn't done, which to me, I was like, all right, rightfully so, but it feels like there's something else in there. And I texted him and I said, maybe there's a thing going on. Maybe Scooble didn't want to sign a long-term. I don't know, but I think there might be something going on. What are your thoughts on this? Is it maybe Scooble? Because the rumor was that he did decline a deal earlier this offseason, correct?
Yes. And I tried to, and I kind of felt bad about it because it was the day after he won the Cy Young, but I tried to press him on it a little bit when I interviewed him about the offer that was supposedly non-competitive. I don't know whose camp that came from. Look, Here's all I know based on the evidence I've seen from the things Tarek has said, but even more so the history of his agent. Scott Boras is his agent. And for people that don't know, Scott Boras is the most player friendly, I am going to get you the most money agent that there is in all of sports. He was Ohtani's guy. He was Juan Soto's guy. And his big thing is very rarely, and I'm sure there are exceptions if I were to go back through his history and look, but very rarely when you're a Scott Boras client, does Scott Boras want you signing extensions before you hit a free agency, because what he wants is what's happened with Soto and what happened with Ohtani and what's happening with some of these big time free agents. He wants the arms race. He wants guys to get to free agency, and you have 3 or 4 teams that are jockeying for position who are all bumping up their offers, and then you eventually just take, who's ever going to throw you the biggest amount of money. I think that sometimes people take it as Scooble doesn't want to be here, he wants to leave. I don't believe any of that. I think he loves it here. I think he loves Detroit. I think he wants to pitch here. But at the same time, I also think when you look at the market for pitchers and where we're at in the world, where you have so many guys who aren't durable, who are blowing out their arms, a Tarek Scooble, those guys don't grow on trees. And the fact is, if there's a comparison that I think it's kind of comparable to, is that Scott Boras was Max Scherzer's agent back in the day, and I guess technically probably still is. And Scherzer won the Cy Young for Detroit in 2013, and he was going into the final year of his deal. And I remember the day before opening day of 2014, he was offered 8 years, $144 million, and turned it down. Now, obviously, that he bet on himself there, had a good year in 14, went on to go to the Nationals, won 2 more Cy Youngs, is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think we're going to see something similar. Now, I'm not saying Tarek's going to have the career that Max had, but I think it's very important in Scott Boras's case to make sure that this is a guy that can get to free agency and potentially get that. I mean, it'd be gobs of money. I mean, Garrett Cole's the highest paid pitcher in baseball right now. But Scooble would be pushing that with the, 200 plus, almost $300 million deal. So I think very often people kind of look at the player and assess it. The fact is the players, they go out and perform. And Tarek has been unbelievable. But really, in terms of the financial disease situations, these guys do listen to their party and they do listen to their agents. And so I think that what Boras is hoping for, and obviously what Tarek is hoping for, is 2 more Cy Young caliber seasons. And then he's going to be looking at life-changing money.
Love that.
Hey, yeah, School Bowl was definitely big news that happened, but another big move was Colt Keith moving his positions from second base. I know we just brought up Caleb Booner did, but I know he was very against that. What do you make of that whole situation? Do you think that has any long-term outlook on the Tigers going forward?
I don't mind it. And the reason for it, honestly, is I think a couple things. One, and I think this is the big one that's kind of getting ignored a little bit. I think Scott Harris loves Colt Keith. Like, Scott Harris gave Colt Keith a contract extension before he played a major league game. And now they're moving him over to first base. I think they love that bat. And I think AJ, I mean, there was points last season when the first 2 months he was really struggling, and AJ was batting him like second, fifth in the lineup. I mean, like, he had a lot of confidence to put this rookie in the heart of the order. And obviously in the second half of the year, he put together really good numbers. So I think that when you look, what they care about is the bat. He's not a tremendous athlete at second base, but even more so. And I feel it always goes back to this guy, but the fact is, Spencer Torkelson wasn't cutting it at first base.
No.
And is there
man?
Right. And the thing is that I get people asking, like, what's going to happen? Are they going to cut him? No, you don't cut him. The fact is, if the best thing that could happen is that Torque comes out in spring training and starts ripping the cover off the ball, right? Earn your way into the lineup. But if you want to be a team that even claims to be remotely competitive, you can't go into the season with a position at first base that is a power position. Like, teams that have average first basemen, like, will still hit 20 home runs a year. Like, that's people don't really care about the glove. They care about getting on base, driving in runs, hitting home runs. I think that it speaks a lot to the confidence they have in Colt Keith, but I also think it speaks to the fact that they don't want to give up on Spencer Torkelson. But there's several guys right now. I think Jace Young is in this position. I think Justin Henry Malloy is in this position where it's like, hey, we don't dislike you. We don't want to get rid of you by any means, but you got to hit your way into the lineup. I also think, just the other big thing, and we'll see how he develops. I mean, to kind of add insult to injury, Torque wasn't doing anything defensively at first base either. His metrics were very poor. I do think taking a guy who was playing a really good defensive position at second, maybe wasn't playing it at a high level, but immediately goes to first. I actually think there's a potential that he could thrive at that position. So I think analytically, it's a really good move, and the fact that he can contribute kind of on both sides of the ball there.
Yeah, great stuff as always, Chris. Keep crushing. By the way, check out Chris's stuff, Chris and Company. It's on YouTube. Give it a watch. He breaks down Detroit sports just in general. And follow him on Twitter if you aren't already, at Castellani2014. Chris, we love you, my friend. Appreciate you always taking the time.
Appreciate you, Chris.
Talk to you soon.
Always appreciate it, guys. Talk to you after the Super Bowl.
Let's go, Chris.
Let's go. There you go. Chris Castellani joining the fellas. Look at that. What a man, dude. A lot of knowledge that dude has, honestly.
Love hearing the Tigers. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah,
Dialed in. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, he had an interview with Kirby Joseph too, I believe. I think it was Kirby.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a bunch. Yeah,
he does some good stuff.
Getting some dudes, man. I think he had AJ Hinch. Like, he's gotten some big ones.
What's going on in that Penn State game? I don't have
10-10. We should do for the Tigers this year. I think we talked to Jeff and Klotz about it. In the next couple, the new year starting now, we're going to try and figure something out and do like an event or something for opening day. Maybe not opening day, but one of these games during the summer, we should go to the Comerica with Chris and do videos and do some stuff.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, no, he's always down there.
Maybe we pick like a weekend, go to a couple games throughout the weekend and stay in Detroit for a little bit. That'd be a good time. Yeah,
drop your mailbag questions. We'll answer anything that kind of comes through here. And I see people kind of chiming in too during it. And I saw the whole Scooble thing. Yeah, I mean, Caleb, he's kind of been voicing his opinion on Twitter about that stuff too. It seems like, I don't know if I don't know what's going on with Chris Ellich. Seems like he's strapped for cash. I mean, this dude lowballing off. I don't know what's going on with him, honestly. I mean, I know he's always been a terrible owner, but it seems like when it comes to actually paying guys, especially with the Tigers.
So what I'm taking, and maybe I'm so wrong with this because I'm not, I love watching the Tigers, enjoy it. I'm not, in baseball terms, like, I don't understand the contract. There's the arbitration. There's all these different things.
Great word, Boone. Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do know that. I just don't understand how some of it works. But looking here, it looks like he's an unrestricted free agent. So if someone in the chat can kind of explain the arbitration, maybe Caleb can at some point. Should have asked Chris, to be honest, more in depth into it. But it looks like he's unrestricted in 2027. So to Chris's point, what he was saying, it kind of actually makes a lot of sense to where if he is a free agent, still has another, not this year, but the next year, to where, like Chris said, he plays very well this year and the next year, and then he's an unrestricted free agent and he can go have teams bid for him, still stays in Detroit. But to Chris's point, and it makes a little bit more sense now why he just why they're taking that 1 year at a time here with them, because that agent doesn't take extensions until you're a free agent, which that makes complete sense. Like that actually opens my eyes up a little bit more with the situation, to where if that's how the way the agent works, and like typically he's not going to go
offers. I mean,
yeah, he's not going to go against his agent and be like, no, I want to sign an extension this year. Like he's going to listen to his agent and he's going to go about it the right way, even if there's an injury or, obviously there's risk of that always. But if his agent's saying, hey, let's just stick this out 2 more years, play ball, go do what you're good at, try and win another Cy Young, do what you can, and then we'll get you the biggest contract of your life and we'll change your life. And I think that's where Chris is saying. So that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it's like for Caleb, and like if you're a fan and you're looking at it, you're like, yes, you want to lock him up long-term today. But that's not always the case. And that's not like the Tigers may have tried to and done everything they could. And they just said, we're not doing it. We're waiting. That's what I took out of the Chris comment there with that. So
I see Bald Don't Lie just asked too, mailbag, any early Heisman candidates for next season?
That's a good Jeremiah Smith.
That's a good one. Oh my gosh, I had one the other day. Let me see if I can. I had one that I don't know if I can.
I'm just gonna keep running Nico back every year. Fuck it.
Nico next year definitely is one.
There was someone that I loved, and now I can't remember.
I like the Jeremiah Smith one a lot. I feel like it's for a guy like that coming. I mean, they. Richard just said, why does Jeff always look pissed off? I don't know.
You were like raising your eyebrows and shit. I don't know what you're like.
I think that's just how I think that's just my face. I think
you got a tick.
It's my bad, Richard.
Imagine Sam Levitt's on this list. Imagine that. Leaves Michigan State from Arizona State.
Yeah.
Great quarterback. Unbelievable. Had a great year. Can run the ball too. Imagine that. Arch Manning.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think that might have been the one that I thought of instantly.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I think it was Arch was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think it was.
Drew Aller.
Hey, Klotz, serious question. What's his name? From Georgia. Carson Beck. Would you take it? Or I guess you're not an Ohio State fan anymore.
No.
I saw the rumor was Ohio State, Miami, and some other team.
That would be like if you could hire or if you could sign Ryan Day as quarterback, you bring in Carson Beck.
He's so bad. And you know what's so funny is that I said like a month ago, I said the man should never go to should not declare going into the year he was a projected top 5 pick, and then he's just played himself out of that. And remember a month ago, I was like, he needs to go back to college. Like, there's no way he can declare for the draft. A week ago, declared for the draft. I think he went in and then noticed people you get your projections, your agent sees it all and looks at it, and he was like, buddy, you need to go back. Dude, I don't even think you're going to get drafted.
In Boone, we were talking earlier. Your guy is Drew Aller. You're kind of I don't buy a single penny.
No,
Carson Beck to me isn't a first round pick, dude. That dude.
I don't even know if he maybe like a 5th, 6th round guy. I don't even know. He dropped off so bad this year.
No,
it was
like DJU like.
Yes, DJU. I think has another year of he might.
No, he declared. He
declared. I saw he declared, but I think he has another year of eligibility, and he just said, "Hey, I'm going." It's like
I never understood the Carson.
I won't be rooting for them next year, Boone. But you know who I hope Ohio State brings in? I hope they go back down to Kansas State. They only bring Will Howard back.
I don't think they'll bring Avery Johnson. I think Avery stays. I feel like.
No, I think he would. But bro, Ohio State, you can throw enough money. Yeah. To be like,
for sure,
they just need a quarterback with mobility, bro.
Did Avery Johnson enter the portal though? That's the question.
I don't think so.
If he didn't, then he's staying.
But you're saying that's like my dream. Like if you could go recruit a guy from another school, like Avery Johnson, I think is perfect for what Ohio State.
I think Carson Beck's going to end up in Miami because his girlfriend plays there, so he's just going to be taking over for Cam Ward.
He's an odd looking individual too.
Oh, dude, yeah, so it's crazy. No, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else there is, but
he's an odd looking.
I think Arch Manning, obviously. I think he's a good Heisman candidate. Yeah. Sam Levitt. I might put some money on Sam Levitt, dude. I know they're losing Scatterblue.
I don't think at Michigan State though.
No, he's not at Michigan State. He's at Arizona State.
Oh, I thought you said Michigan. I thought you said
he started his career.
Transfer.
He transferred from Michigan State last year. He was at Michigan State last year. First year transfers to Arizona State, takes Arizona State to the college football playoffs.
Arizona State's gonna be good for a while, man.
Yeah, oh, dude, the court. Sam Levitt's legit, dude. Dude, he has ground game, everything. I like him.
What did he say when it came to Quinn Ewers? Like before the game, he was like, "I respect Quinn a lot, but I know I'm the better quarterback heading into this game," or some shit like that.
I would take him over Quinn. Quinn's so inconsistent.
Oh, Quinn, I don't know. I think he's hurt, man.
He has these flashes where he's like, dude, you're the best player on the field right now, and then all of a sudden he just like
he's dropping the handoff.
Yeah, or throws the ball to the other team like directly. Like, here you go. It's like, dude, what are you doing? I'm excited to see March though. March is electric.
Bro, you see he was running 22 miles an hour.
Yeah, dude. His size. Dude. Did you see him when he would go in and he would run the ball? He would truck guys. Like he just would like run through dudes. It was one of the most electric things ever. And he has a cannon. I think he's going to be a first overall pick in a couple years.
Dude,
2 years.
Arch. Yeah.
I think he's going to go number 1 overall.
Honestly, he's going to be. I don't know about success, but as a prospect, obviously success helps. But he reminded me a lot of Trevor Lawrence, like the arm, the mobility, because Trevor could fucking run when he was at Clemson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's got the size. He's got it all, man. I mean, that dude's a number 1 overall pick. Like this.
Wonder what team? What if he could Colts draft him?
That's you know what?
That's a great. Hey, Wizard hat, Boone.
That's a good Wizard hat. I would say the Giants and Raiders tanking. They're probably like shit. I mean, those teams won't be good next year, but like wrong year to suck bad, man. Next year,
such a weird quarterback class. I'm just so interested to see who goes. I'm interested to see who has a legit career. I don't know who.
I wouldn't even if I had the top pick and I needed a quarterback. I'm taking the left tackle to take the quarterback next year. Like I'm not. I would,
but it's not.
I would not take. And you guys know I'm a Cam Ward guy. I would not take any of these quarterbacks if you're ranking prospect wise inside the top 15. Like Shedeur should be like, I understand he's Deontay. Shedeur is a 2nd round quarterback. Cam Ward is a 2nd round quarterback. Quinn Ewers is a 3rd round quarterback. Like I don't see a 1st round caliber quarterback. I could see guys that if you plug in late in the draft, like trying to think of a team like the Steelers, like if they were to take a quarterback or something like that, but they're not going to be there.
Yeah, it's just a weird.
I like Shedeur, but I can't argue. I mean, the number 1 overall, there's not really a guy this year. I mean, even the tackle you mentioned. There's not really like the tackle.
Did you guys?
Dude from Texas is nice.
Did you guys see the bet?
But
I saw it on Twitter today. Delaney Walker and Will Compton, they made a bet on Shedeur Sanders. Delaney Walker thinks that as the draft process goes through, that Shedeur is going to drop out of the first 2 rounds. And they made a bet, $1,000 bet. And Delaney Walker said, like, bet him $1,000 that Shedeur doesn't go in the first 2 rounds. And Will Compton instantly was like, yes.
Yeah.
Easiest money I've ever made.
Because he's undersized, but what does Shedeur do at an elite level?
His arm is
does have a cannon.
I would say the only thing that he has is touch on the football.
He's got great.
I don't think he has a good arm.
And
But he doesn't have when you talk about like guys who are taken in the 1st round because of their arm, you think of like Josh Allen. Like you think of guys like Shedeur, he's got good mobility, he's got a good arm, good accuracy. But then as far as translating, like
I think this year I gained more respect for him because he's faced some decent competition this year in the Pac. Like Pac-12, you're always gonna he's gonna put up the numbers, but he's had some. I mean, especially when they made a bowl game. I mean, he's had some decent matchups. And he's played well in all of them. He's always played well. And it's not like he's got like this amazing offensive line. He's got this run game. Like they just basically say, "Hey, Shedeur, your arm, bail us out." And it's like, yeah, he had Travis Hunter. I get that.
Can I take us off football for a sec? You guys got any New Year's resolutions? I know we're way over, but do you any New Year's resolutions? Goals. I text you guys mine.
Oh yeah. All right. Go ahead and say your New Year's resolution.
I would like to hear yours.
No, let's just get straight let's cut to the point.
Let's hear yours.
Mine's a good one. I think mine's elite.
Go ahead.
I would like you guys to go first. I don't want to take
mine isn't anything. I mean, I have the same every year. It's the same for me. I mean, I
probably get better every day.
Probably quit vaping.
Well, you vape?
My thing is just I want to get just mine's like basic. It's like
I'm gonna make sure you
get back in the gym daily. Like it's like simple stuff. Like I want to improve myself. Like it's just like boring. I like
to find better. Yeah, see, that stuff I feel like I should always do, and I don't. But I don't do. I always try and find
that.
Yeah.
Like,
I just try to find something where it's like, what can I do this year that's gonna make me be like, yeah, I did that. That's why I have mine. You guys know mine.
What is it, Boone? The chat doesn't know. Go
No,
ahead.
hey, it's a good New Year's resolution. The boys that have known me. What's my one goal in life, boys, outside of doing this?
You want to be in a Seth Rogen movie?
I would love to be in a Seth Rogen movie one day. And to do that, you have to go out and start somewhere. 2025, actor Boone. I'm going out there, not that type of acting. I'm going out there. I'm going to, by the end of 2025, I will be in a film. And one that people are like, that's Booner, or a TV show or something. It's going to happen. I went and I already purchased some classes. I've already started online courses. I've already started. So I'm already, it's the courses I've purchased. They're acting, and as well as there's another section of it and another class that is stand up. So it's a 2-in-1.
Student Boone.
So
going back to college.
Yeah, it's online. I don't even know the course, but it was.
You know what? I already have an idea for you. Hear me out.
And I'm learning how to write scripts, which I'm pumped up about.
You know what?
Come on, Boone.
21 Jump Street, the third movie. You and Channing Tatum. You take
Jonah Hills. That would be so fun.
Booner, you would crush that role, dude. You're gonna get you'll be all right. Hey, Boone in a Seth Rogen. You'll be. Hey, that's a great one. Yeah, I don't have. I mean, besides like crunch time. Well, I mean, there's like business.
Crunch time's always like.
But like a personal goal, I just like. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This sounds corny. I don't know if it's corny or not, but I hate New Year's resolutions. I just think you should be like they should just be in your mind. You should always be wanting to do things. You know what I'm saying?
2025 is our year, Jeff.
I know. You ever notice you go to the gym and like at the beginning of. You ever notice you go to the gym in the beginning of the year and everyone's in there, and then
everyone's there, and then 2 days later, it's not even. There's that day where it's like, all right, and then they get tired.
But yeah,
I don't like resolutions. I like goals. Set a goal for yourself.
Yeah, there you
like
go.
Crunch time, we have goals and some things we're gonna do in 2025 that we've already had conversations about. That's like this thing's about to get to a different level, and I don't think there are people who have doubted us in the past when we maybe left places. In 2025, the conversations we've had already, I'm like, okay, this is pretty like surreal. So things are going to happen for us. I like to set goals. I don't do resolutions. I go, hey, like my goal this year is to the acting stuff. Hey, I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to take one thing I've always wanted to do in 2020. I'm going to do it.
Hey,
it's like you with golf last year, Jeff. Like you're like, I want to try something new. Boom, golf. Me, I want to try something new, and I'm going to do it.
Everyone has a friend where it's like October and they're like, I want to do this, but I'm just going to wait till the new year. It's like, start now. Like just start now, dude.
Let's do it.
I like it. Hey, good show today. Hey, it was a very dynamic show. All right. We got heated. We had Chris on. We had some good conversations. And that was a good blend. We had a good
Jeff
show.
got heated. Not we.
Okay. Booner, that was, I think, the most I've seen you in a little while.
You were heated, actually.
Starting off with the Drew Aller thing, then we got into the.
You opened up.
When Jeff said, "I determine pressure," thank you. That's when
that was the craziest line that made no sense.
Here it comes again. Let's not.
9:07. I've got places to be, things to do. Hey, classes to take.
We'll be back tomorrow. We'll preview some of the weekend, talk more Lions. Appreciate you all.
Love
always.
You guys.
Love you guys. You guys are the reason. You guys are our heartbeat. Get your merchandise. officialctsports.com. It's all live on there. Kings of the North, NFC North merch. Get your merch. I got the hat in the background. Love this hat. Wear it all the time. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Tiger Town.
Oh, yeah. All right.
The narrative will never leave.
All right. Peace.
Peace.